There you go. There you go. Okay, we are live, which means I should now be able to send a link to this. All right, so that would be the link. Copy.
Looks like most of your rant topics are covered above too, so we should have no problem getting
Nice,
to them.
nice, good. That's good. We'll. I didn't get a chance to read all the stuff up front. I just wanted to get some ideas down on paper before I forget.
That's all good. The cool thing about doing it to Google Docs is as we run through them, you can delete them and it shows up for everybody.
Which is that is really nice, so you don't accidentally say the same thing again if someone's off in their own little world.
I've been doing that the last few episodes. It seems to
Good.
work out pretty well. So
Good. That's a nice little bit of extra little bookkeeping. All right, let's. What am I doing? Facebook. That's what I want.
Now, do you want to handle the intros and stuff, or do you want me to do that?
If you want, you can. That's fine. Link that.
His Audacity is up.
I wonder if I think his Twitter is linked to the Facebook, right? So if I post on Facebook, it automatically goes to Twitter. Is that correct? Or no?
I believe so. Yeah, I think so, because I've posted on the Facebook and then
it shows up there.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I will do that just there. All right. And then that should be good there. I don't have to do anything of that.
And then once that goes up, I will share the links out to all the sites I share it to.
Okay. And let me do one last thing. Open up to Discord. Oops. I think Adam puts on Discord every once in a while.
Oh, what the fuck are these people doing? You can take TNA out of the name, but you can't take TNA out of the booking. Okay.
Let's see. How do I? Is there a way to add the chat on the side, whatever it's called?
We do. There's a chat on the YouTube page. I always.
Oh, it's on the YouTube page. Okay, so as long as we.
Yep.
So that's automatically there now.
The yep.
Oh, okay, cool. So, I didn't realize that was a thing. All right, cool. So I don't have to. Thought I maybe fuck something up.
No, Google doesn't let us do it anymore. So basically, I open the YouTube video, pop out the chat, and just put it on the side of our screen. Keep an eye on it. All right, copy, share the links.
Okay. So that should be good. I can close that and close Facebook so it doesn't randomly ding a message. Shrink that down. Okay. Sweet.
There's mine. Oh, where's the New England page? There we go.
All right.
Paste. Post.
This is 301, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Post. Did I close the wrong fucking one? I'm going to pop out the chat again just to be safe. There we go. All right. So there's the chat. Nobody's in the chat yet anyway, so it's not going to bother anything. Copy. That's there. And what's the other one? It's the We Love. Downside to being in so many groups on Facebook is when I go to post the links, I have to post it on 15 different pages.
Yeah. There needs to be a more simple way to do all that.
Really? Like every page I subscribe to, post this link, or just like a click box, post it on this, and
this, and just done. That'd be so great. I bet there's apps you could find to do that, but that's just
it should just be built-in functionality.
It should be.
All right, so push that over there.
Make sure my phone's on silent. Okay, there we go.
And then.
Okay. All right.
And make sure my mic and everything are set to the right things. Yep. And yep. Okay. And my mic and stuff in here are the right ones. Yep. Okay. Good. Yeah, I don't know who it was last week, but they had like an echo, so somebody had the speakers coming through. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, I hate when that happens.
Yeah. And then for some reason, I guess when Adam put the show together, Raccoon's audio got screwed up, so it was like a half a second off, so he would answer questions before we actually said anything.
Oh boy. Yeah. That's fun. Yeah, and I don't mind doing the audio for this show. This show's pretty quick and easy. I'll be happy to compile that and get that hopefully out tonight. I think I still have the password for the Podomatic.
Okay. Yeah, he usually does the quick intro, which I can record after fairly quick. Then he throws in the theme song, and then we go to the live portion. So
I think I have a preset saved with like the theme song already put in there, and like the spaces before and after from when I last did an episode. So it should be really easy on my end.
All right. So after this, I'll send you this file. Then I'll record the quick 3-thing intro, whatever that he does now, and then send that over to you.
And then as soon as I get those, I'll slap together tonight and get it put up, and we'll be done.
Cool. Sounds good. All right.
All right. Whenever you're ready, we'll do the count. We'll do the countdown, and
all right, ready whenever you are.
All right. You want to do the countdown?
Sure. This is episode 301 in 3, 2, 1, record. Now, with 100% less Adam, it's episode 301 of the Rundown. As I said, Adam has decided to take the night off and not participate in the show this evening. So, I am joined by a voice from the Rundown past. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, he is back. Andy's in the house. Andy, how you doing?
Oh, hey, how's it going? I thought you were going to talk about that Sean guy.
No, he's dead.
Oh, that's right. I forgot he died. Hey, how's it going, guys? It's or guy rather. It's just two of us today. And hello, fans. We are ready to talk about some wrestling this week.
Yes, and if you would like to join in on the discussion, if you're watching live on our YouTube channel, you can look on the right-hand side of your screen. You'll see a box there entitled Live Chat. Inside that chat box, typically we call it our Smathers Lounge because the man usually occupies it, named Mike Smathers. Not there yet. I'm hoping he'll pop in just a little bit, but you can pop in, take your pants off, grab some oil, make yourself comfortable, and join in the conversation because it's a big night. We got a lot of stuff to talk about from the week that was in professional wrestling, a huge week in professional wrestling, a historic week, if you will, in professional wrestling. On top of all that, we're going to predict what we think is going to happen at hashtag WWE Balls.
The absolute worst name for a pay-per-view. And there have been some real shitty ones before. Like this, it's just terrible.
Absolutely. But you know what the funny part is? For as bad as the name is, the card is really good. I'm looking forward to the actual card. So.
It's an interesting card, and it's one of those cards that kind of snuck up. Like, I was looking at it a couple weeks back, and I'm like, "What? There's not going to be anything good." And then all of a sudden, things just kind of like were flying left and right. Not as much build-up on some of the matches, but there should be some really good, solid matches on this card.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, surprisingly. I did not think I would be saying that when I heard the name. But as we talk about the week that was in professional wrestling, let's just dive right in here. And for me, one of the biggest stories of the week, and some people may disagree, but I thought this was my favorite part of the week, and I know you have something to say about it, Andy, was on SmackDown when the Usos faced off with the New Day in a rap battle. Now, I know you have your thoughts. Let me just, before we go down the first Andy rant of the evening.
Oh, yes. It's going to be an extended rant throughout the whole episode.
Well, allow me to say this. I really enjoyed this segment. I had very skeptical going into it because you hear rap battles on a show run by an 80-year-old white guy. I'm definitely very concerned with what we're going to get. Now, that said, I thought Wale came out. I don't know if you're familiar with Wale, Andy.
Not really my wheelhouse. I'm more of a rock guy. So
okay, great rapper, big, huge WWE fan. Has a big event around WrestleMania called Wale Mania every year. So yeah. he's all in. He knows the product. He knows the guys. So I thought it was obviously a thrill for him, and you could tell he appreciated the moment just in his reaction. Now, I thought he did a great job of hosting it, and I thought there were some great lines in there from Big E's Double D's to Jafakin, which might have been my favorite, the just Jafakin. Karrion Roman's bags, of course, was in there. Another one of my favorites, the Weenie Doo line. Weenie Doo, absolutely great that made it onto WWE television.
You're forgetting about the R-rated one.
Oh, no, that was what I was saving for last. The most controversial line of this rap battle. And he said rated R. I think he should have gone rated X, but maybe he was just trying to PG it up for him. Yep. But in any event, a direct reference on WWE television to the Paige Xavier Woods sex tape that leaked earlier this year. First time we've heard it kind of joked around, but first time we've heard a direct reference to it. And it was removed from the WWE.com clip and the Hulu replay. So I think that might have been a little bit off book. I don't know if the guys out back were happy with that, but Andy, I've expressed the stuff I enjoyed about this. What was your problem with it?
First of all, it was on Hulu. It did make the Hulu clip. Because I watch all my stuff on Hulu, and it was there, unless they've removed it since this morning. It still made it on the Hulu replay, which I was excited for. It was probably better than you probably would have expected it to be, honestly. Going into something like that, you look at it and you go, oh, God. And, for me, there were some good lines, but ultimately, it's kind of a build-up to, we had last week. And my big rant that I'm going to kind of make my theme this week is, I love SmackDown. I think SmackDown is better than Raw, but the last 2 weeks have been a big disappointment for the most part with regards to SmackDown, in my humble personal opinion. And one of the things that I think, while there were some good moments in this rap battle, it felt a little sloppy in some ways. You had the Usos who couldn't seem to get into the rhythm of some of their raps. They would get interrupted by the crowd, or, kind of get caught up in the moment, and they'd go back and they'd restate it and they'd restart like the same line again. It just felt a little kind of stunted and weird. Now, that being said, there were some good lines in it, and it definitely wasn't the worst part of SmackDown this week or in the last couple of weeks. But I mean, I don't know. It drug on a little too long. And I think the ending was a little anticlimactic. It's just like, here's a shove. Oh, you're disqualified. Get out of the ring. And then nothing really kind of, I don't know. The end part didn't really pay off as much.
Well, see, and that may be a culture thing. I grew up with rap battles. I still to this day will find myself, you go on the black hole of the internet. Sometimes I'll look up a rap battle and I'll go down that well. What you saw in terms of the format was actually fairly consistent with the way real rap battles usually go, which I think actually was part of why I enjoyed it so much. There was an authenticity to it that I thought would normally be lacking. I'll give you the fact that at the end, the pushing leading to a disqualification in a rap battle, a little iffy. But at the end of the day, I think we all came out of that feeling like the Usos won the whole thing anyway.
Absolutely, they did.
I don't think it really mattered at the end.
Yeah, so I don't know. It was an interesting segment. I guess it breaks things up, but I don't know. In the last 2 weeks, there hasn't been a whole lot of, in my opinion, very strong wrestling, with the exception of a couple of matches on SmackDown. So it's like, again, do we need all this extra stuff when we could have more wrestling? But we'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah, and well, since you brought up strong wrestling on SmackDown, I guess that's a very natural segue to the next topic we can discuss, which is the match that was billed as a qualifier for the Independence Day Battle Royal.
Yep.
When sort of out of nowhere, AJ Styles is forced to qualify for this Battle Royal, and his opponent, revealed as the other man recently defeated by Kevin Owens, Chad Gable. Now, what followed, I thought, was a tremendous wrestling match.
Great wrestling match.
Yeah, these guys had a great match. Now, first off, not great. Chad Gable's singlet, not good. It's like mustard yellow. I know it's the 4th of July and everything, but no. You're American Alpha. It's the 4th of July. Yeah. Throw on some red, white, and blue singlets. We know you have them. Just a bad look on that night. Also, I didn't like that they keyed in with Jason Jordan, and Jason Jordan didn't come out at all. That didn't.
Yeah, that was. I saw that on Botchamania on their Facebook. It was like he was hiding in the singlet. So
no, he was there because he was in the Battle Royal later. So
it's true.
because he didn't have to qualify. So he got in and his partner didn't. But no, they went on, they had a great match. My only real issue with this was when you're going to do something like this, to me, you have the underdog win, because as soon as they set up the match, I said, gee, I wonder what's going to happen. I know how this is going to go. And then at the end of the day, it just followed the formula you would expect it to.
Twice in the same show, it follows that formula.
Yeah, so it's sort of like, what's the point? You know, I mean, you could have theoretically set up some angle where Gable wins and, you know, gets jumped later and AJ gets to take a spot. You could have done something to mix things up a little bit. But from the second that match was made, you basically wrote the entire story for the audience right in front of their face. And I thought that took away from it a little bit. That said, those guys went in there, busted their ass, and had a great work rate in that match.
Yeah, it was the best match of the night, obviously. And it was one that on paper I'd look at and say, yeah, it's going to be good. But they really turned it out. Like, it was extremely impressive. I don't like the idea of Chad Gable getting all these singles matches. I really want to see American Alpha at this point still be pushed as a tag team, which is something that they haven't done very well. And it's been talked about on the show countless times and in the articles that were written countless times. But that's a little frustrating. But man, they really did go all out to give the fans a really good match. Yeah,
absolutely. And the misuse of American Alpha, I've been leading that charge basically since they came up to the main roster. I thought they screwed them up at their debut, not debuting them on the first live SmackDown. I thought that was a huge mistake right off the bat, and it really set a bad tone for what would happen later on. I think the other thing that hurt them was they kind of got rushed into that first tag team title victory because of Zack Ryder's injury. It was supposed to be a program with the Hype Bros. They needed somebody to fill in. They threw Alpha in there and put the belts on them, and I think that just kind of screwed. They didn't get that moment of capturing the title that I think would have helped their legitimacy. That said, I agree with you. I don't want to see these guys, as good as the match was, I don't want to see these guys in singles, because the more that you get in singles matches, the more you're going to plant that little seed in Vince McMahon's head that they need to split them up. They're currently on a process of splitting up every tag team they have.
Pretty much.
Whether it be NXT, SmackDown, or Raw, all of them have had a tag team split up recently, and all of them look like they're potential seeds for future tag teams to be split up. So I don't want to see any of that. Let's keep American Alpha together, keep them in storylines, push them, give them some attention, some focus.
Yeah, give them something to do.
Some promo time. Build up a rivalry. You got the Shining Stars on there. They're not the Colognes, I should say. That would be a great program with Alpha. Put them in a little tag team deal. Part of it, I think, probably has to do with the emergence of the Fashion Police, as they've really kind of taken a featured role every week on SmackDown for a tag team, a way that's not in the title picture. But I don't know. I'm feeding for some American Alpha time on television.
Absolutely, I agree. So, kind of moving from there, we talked about Styles winning that and going on to the Battle Royal. What were your thoughts on the Battle Royal? There's a couple things that stand out in my mind with the Battle Royal on SmackDown this week. Number one, some odd choices with regards to like eliminations, like Dolph Ziggler going out as quick as he did. The fact that they go to commercial break and like there's 3 more guys gone, but they don't say like, hey, these people were eliminated during the break. And maybe one of the reasons, like I know one of the Colognes was in there, and I think aren't they on their way out of the WWE right now? So maybe they're like
rumors, but nothing concrete.
Okay.
Yet.
Okay. And then, the real hype for Ty Dillinger, like it's great that he made the top 3, but that would have been a fresh match. Ty Dillinger versus Owens, whereas I'm not saying I don't like AJ Styles. I love AJ Styles, but again, it was predictable. We've seen AJ Styles and Owens together anyway, and Styles should be fighting be the next contender against Jinder Mahal. That's where he needs to be. So I don't know. It was not the greatest.
And that's sort of kind of where I have a little bit of a disconnect, because as much as I love the Kevin Owens Face of America gimmick, I think it's really kind of entertaining. And as much as I love to see Styles and Owens in the ring whenever I can possibly see them, because they just are tremendous, top of their game at the moment, that feud feels too big for the U.S. title. It really does. It feels like that should be your world title program, and Orton and Mahal should be fighting for the U.S. title. I feel like almost like it's a waste of this program to have it on those top guys. And the bigger concern is I think it takes that title away from the secondary guys like Dillinger, who should be getting a chance to have a program or elevate towards it. It sort of takes it out of play for them. So hopefully this is probably going to carry over to SummerSlam, is my guess. This is a big money match. You could really market for SummerSlam. But I'm hoping that after that we can start moving that title back to what it's supposed to be, as a way to elevate mid-card guys. And get some spots for Dillinger, maybe even Sami Zayn. I wouldn't mind seeing Sami Zayn with a run with that title.
I would do a lot for his character right now. He's not doing much of anything. Although it looks like he's going to have maybe an angle program with what's his name?
Mike Bennett.
Kanellis.
Yes.
Mike
Kanellis. Yes. But in terms of the Battle Royal itself, I thought there was some really interesting parts in there. And you touched on Ty Dillinger being in the final three. I thought that was sort of surprising given how little they've used him since
they haven't. Yeah.
But the crowd was definitely into it, and they were very unhappy when he was eliminated, which probably bodes well for Ty to get that kind of reaction consistently. It hasn't paid off yet, but you got to think people are listening to those reactions in the back, and eventually that hopefully will pay off for him. So keep cheering for Ty Dillinger, ladies and gentlemen. Also thought another thing I took away from it was Kevin Owens is amazing on commentary.
Oh, God, yes.
When
I was cracking up.
When he is done in the ring, he will be the best color commentator in wrestling. Yeah. He's just amazingly witty, good on his feet. Everything he does is just comedy gold, and it ties back to his Talking Smack appearances. Every time he's on there, it's just amazing. He's just I can't say enough about him as a talker. And he's great in ring, but he might be even better on a microphone.
I agree.
A couple other things I thought was interesting. Eric Rowan seemed to get sort of the monster spot.
He did, yeah.
With a bunch of the eliminations, and his little interaction there with the Fashion Police, I thought was interesting. He threw Fandango out, went to throw Tyler Breeze out. Fandango catches Tyler Breeze, puts him back in, and Rowan just tosses him back out again.
Do you think Rowan's the one who smashed up their office?
Well, he said them. So in the office, there's two of them, and I know you don't listen when you're not on the show. So
I have a lot of podcasts to listen to be fair. So there's a lot of podcasts on the Questionable Endeavor Network, QuestEnNetwork.com. There's my plug.
There you go, and we'll have more plugs to come. But yeah, I thought the interesting part to me was that they, in terms of the Fashion Police discussing that, they constantly go back to there was two of them, and they looked like the same kind. They almost looked the same, and they were big guys. And as I postulated on the show,
I got an idea.
I think we're looking at the Authors of Pain. Somehow being the team that's ultimately responsible for that. But we'll see. They kind of dropped it. There wasn't much mention of the office trashing this week, because Tyler Breeze was too busy dressing in drag and pretending to be Renee Young.
What was his name?
Tenay Young.
Like Mike Tenay?
Yeah, I was wondering if it was an homage to Mike Tenay.
I'm sure it is a Mike Tenay reference.
But I thought it was particularly great because his outfit looked very similar to the one Renee Young was actually wearing, because they cut right to her in the next scene.
God, and her face. And
I don't know if she knew that was coming. I think
it was priceless.
Yeah, it was tremendous. It was excellent use by the producers there of her. But back to the Battle Royal for a moment. Another key moment in this Battle Royal that I thought was you had sort of really planting more seeds for the Mojo, Rawley, Zack Ryder breakup. Earlier on in the night, there was a spot where Mojo's in the back, and he's going through his bag, and he's got the Hype Bros shirt, and he's kind of holding it up, and it almost looked like a bit of disgust on his face looking at it. Ryder comes in and says, hey, I got us a spot in the Battle Royal. We didn't even have to go out and beat Chad Gable to earn it. So then the Mojos are very excited and said, hey, well, I'm good at winning Battle Royals. And, well, Rob Gronkowski wasn't there that night, so, of course, that didn't happen.
Of course.
But they're teaming up together. I think they teamed up together to eliminate Rowan. And then immediately following that, Mojo threw Ryder out of the thing. And Ryder was pissed, as well you'd expect them to. And Mojo basically looked at him and said, oh, it's just business. But they're starting to plant those seeds. And, of course, the best part of that segment, again, was as soon as Mojo Rawley throws Zack Ryder out of the ring, you have Kevin Owens on commentary. See, what kind of a guy stabs his best friend in the back? Which was just amazing.
Beautiful. Oh, God. My only problem with the Mojo Rawley Hype Bros.
And you're a big Mojo guy, Andy. We've established.
I am. Absolutely. And I am all for Mojo turning heel. I think he'll do a really great job because, he's got this idea of, what have we seen him do recently? He's hanging around kids, showing them the trophy. It's all like sugary sweet. It's going to make the heel turn that much sweeter, especially when he turns on his longtime friend, Ryder. Now, they could have hype this up, no pun intended, a little bit more last week if they, maybe had a little bit of falling out right after the tag match instead of immediately shoved the New Day once again down our throats. You get this like hyping up of a really cool, what could be a really awesome tag team match between the Usos and the Hype Bros, and the match is like 5 minutes. And it's, you know,
mostly during commercials.
Yeah, and we don't see any of the fallout at all. You know, give us a little bit more. You know, just a tiny bit more to further push it. Don't wait a week.
I will say this in terms of that match you're talking about from the week before. If you go back and rewatch it, they sort of told the story within that match. Mojo had everything going their way, tags out, and Ryder quickly loses the match. So you're planting the seeds to be able for Mojo to be credibly upset and turn on Ryder eventually and use things like that as part of his ammunition to make what he does make sense. So I think there was an element of telling that story, and there was no long-term need for them to continue that feud because I mean, they're splitting up and the Usos had other stuff to do. I kind of wish they hadn't rushed right to the Usos New Day feud, maybe have them exist separately for a while and build it a little bit. Because that is the biggest match tag team division on SmackDown has at the moment.
Yeah, and I mean, we need a little bit more cool down from the New Day. We need to build them up a little bit with some other teams to make us care a little bit more. I think that they were champions for too long, and I think that kind of backfired a little bit.
Yeah, but Kofi being out kept them off TV for about a month, maybe two. True. So I think that was kind of the thought was, hey, they've been away for a while. We can really kind of double down on them. And Adam coined a great phrase on his show a few weeks ago based on a point I was making. The New Day shtick is filler on Raw and killer on SmackDown, because when you're talking about a 3-hour show, you have room for a 15-minute promo before every single New Day match. When you move it to a 2-hour SmackDown, you're talking about guys like Shinsuke not being on the show.
Yeah, he had like a tiny little aspect of it.
Right, Dillinger, Corbin, Alpha, all these guys. No Charlotte, no Becky. All these people not on the show, because we have to have 15-minute New Day promos for every match. And I really do think it's kind of hurting the product. Now, the one thing I have also said is that the benefit NXT has is that you don't see all of their talents every single week. So you get some time to appreciate them. And I think that was the best displayed by Enzo and Cass, because their shtick was great on NXT. You loved it. And then they moved to Raw, and you started to hear, my name is every single week. And it very quickly dragged on.
Absolutely. Grates on you.
Yeah, and I didn't have that effect in NXT, and I think that was a big part of it, was that they didn't see them every. So maybe we sit here and complain about not seeing all these people on SmackDown every week. Maybe there's a benefit to it down the road. We'll have to kind of see how it plays out over the long term, but it is an interesting subplot to it. Now, we've talked at great length so far about goings-on on SmackDown, so let's shift over to Raw for a minute.
Sounds good.
As we head into hashtag WWE Balls, of course, the biggest event taking place at that pay-per-view was, to me, the best part of Raw once again, as it has been for the past few weeks, and that is Samoa Joe and Brock Lesnar. This is the epitome in professional wrestling of a big match feel. They haven't touched very much. When they have, it was the guy who everyone kind of assumes can't win the match, chokes out the other guy. Heyman's been used beautifully. Joe has been just built up like an absolute stone cold killer. This has been exactly what it needed to be, and I think it's the one thing on the WWE product right now that people are all excited to see.
It's interesting, and I think that I'm really honestly very surprised that they've built it as much as they have, because, and I'll explain why. Indie wrestling fans all know Samoa Joe already. Those watching NXT already know Samoa Joe. We all know, like you and I, we know Samoa Joe is a top competitor. He deserves this match, and he will be a good match against Lesnar. However, you're a more casual fan going in 3 or 4 weeks ago would have looked at this match when Samoa Joe won the qualifier and said, seriously, him of all the people, you're going to put him on there? He just had a couple matches with Seth Rollins, and he's not that great. Now, that's the uneducated fan. I think that WWE, they could have dropped the ball on the hashtag balls on this pretty easily by not giving us much of a build up and you know, not and assuming that the fans are already going to be behind this match and Joe. They were smart this time. They knew that the more casual fan is not going to know Joe as well. And I agree with you. They have done a very, very good job of building up Samoa Joe as an intimidating figure. His work with Paul Heyman is great. I mean, how could you not be great when you're working with Paul Heyman? But it is going to be a big match, and it feels like maybe Samoa Joe could win it. I don't think he will, as we'll get into when we get to the predictions. But it could happen. It could be that sort of thing. And they built it just enough that if he does win, one, it'll be believable, but two, it will still be shocking.
Right. And I think the build is the key here, because you look at, you talked about it, you look at it on paper and you say, well, there's no way Samoa Joe's winning that match. But then if you're the average fan, you sit there and like, well, look at all the guys he beat in that 5-way, all those names that were in there.
Mm-hmm.
And now, oh my God, he's choking out Brock Lesnar. Nobody's ever choked out Brock Lesnar on television. That's never happened before. So they've really done an amazing job with keeping Joe credible. And to me, the biggest part of this whole thing is, for the most part, save for a few pull aparts here or there, they've kept these guys physically separated. But when they've gone face to face, Joe has every bit the size to stand in Lesnar's face and have it look credible. That's something you wouldn't have had with a Finn Balor, for example. Joe's not looking up at Lesnar. Joe's every bit the huge human being that Brock Lesnar is, and I think that visual is tremendous. And then when you add to it the fact that they've done very little physicality, Brock hasn't really laid a hand on Joe through much of this build. The anticipation, I think, is off the charts with fans. I think this is one of their best builds in a very, very long time.
Okay, I would agree with you. I've got an interesting kind of question that doesn't it directly connects to this, but we can move on to something else.
Sure.
This build also that we've seen in another match for Great Balls of Fire between Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman.
Mm-hmm.
Roman Reigns comes back. He says, "Hey, I'm getting a title shot because I'm Roman Reigns, and McMahon's going to shove me down your throats, and that's the way it is." But then we get like the swerve where Strowman comes back, which is good. It's great. I love it. And the build between these two have been really great, leading into an ambulance match, which normally is a match I could care less about. I don't like this particular gimmick all that much, but they've built it in such a way that, looking at the past between the two, ambulances have played a big part in these two stories over the last several months.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do we see? Okay, so if Lesnar wins, are we going to get the match that Roman Reigns says? Is it going to be Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar for the title? Do we get Roman losing in this ambulance match, and thus Strowman gets pushed to that title match? Like, because the next event they're going to have is what, SummerSlam?
Yeah.
So what is the big match? We have four potential competitors here: either Joe versus one of those two, or Lesnar versus one of those two. Which one is the biggest match in your opinion?
Well, don't forget we got Cena in the mix too, because
that's true. He could come over.
But to me, on paper, and all the rumors seem to indicate that we're going to end up with Lesnar versus Roman at SummerSlam. Now that the plans have sort of changed, originally it was supposed to be Strowman, but now they're gonna switch over to Roman. If that's true, my thought process on that is simply that they're probably worried the ratings have been down. They're probably worried that not having a champion on is hurting it, and they'll probably just have Lesnar drop the belt to Roman earlier than they had originally planned to. Here's my idea, though. If you're going to go that route, why don't we throw in a fatal four-way for SummerSlam? Let's get Strowman in there with Lesnar, with Roman, and with Joe, and let's have these four giant guys just beat the crap out of each other and see who comes out standing. I think that might be the best way to utilize them.
That's actually a really good idea. You could have the matches set up. You could set that match up pretty easily, actually, on this pay-per-view. Really push toward this sort of really big fight feel that I think honestly will draw in. I mean, McMahon obviously thinks that Roman's the big draw, and he is and isn't in some ways, right? A lot of fans love him. A lot of fans love to hate him, though. So he's going to be a draw. But if you get those really stalwart, like super Roman haters out there, they're going to be really angry. So if you throw a few more elements in to a main event, you can really push that card, and everyone will have a favorite in that match.
Although I will say, you did throw in one of my least favorite phrases in the world of wrestling when you use the phrase "shove him down our throats." I goddamn hate that.
Sorry, my apologies.
It's just it's the IWC's go-to phrase, and the reality is they write everything, guys. So the people you like, they're shoving them down your throats too. Anyway, but in terms of the ambulance match, I think you can look at that from a creative standpoint. When you're looking at booking a show, you're talking about you want to keep guys strong if you've got plans for them. And this is the type of match that you do in that scenario, because really either way you go with whoever wins this, nobody's taking a pinfall, nobody's submitting. You can have Strowman get thrown into that ambulance drives off, cut to the back before it ever leaves the arena. He busts out of the door and refuses medical attention.
Yes,
he
true.
stays strong and loses the match. And to me, that's what this type of match is a device to be able to do.
Right. And I think we'll probably see something like that, honestly, because you don't want to, I mean, you don't, if you want to really push Roman Reigns, you don't want to have him lose big time in this match. But at the same time, if Strowman is your big monstrous heel, you can't have him just get bitched, in this sort of match. In this match, you're right. It does give an out.
Right. And Roman lost cleanly last time to Strowman. So there's almost, and we'll get to predictions later, but there's almost a reason to believe that Roman's going to end up coming out on top in this one, but we shall see.
Right.
What else do we have occurring this week that's worthy of talking?
Bray Wyatt. I want to talk briefly about Bray Wyatt. And I don't want to talk forever about this because the Bray Wyatt-Seth build has not been good. I like Seth. He's my boy. We have pancakes once a week. But one of the things that...
amazing with his travel schedule.
It is pretty amazing.
Even while he was in Japan. That's
right. Seth has... Right. It's pretty amazing. I like Seth. I'll continue to like Seth, even though this match I'm not excited for. Bray, however, his last promo on Raw, I really liked what they did with Bray and the way that he kind of talked about. I just dug it. It felt old school. It felt not fully creepy, but it still felt supernatural. And I love that shit. I eat that up. So I kind of enjoyed that.
Okay. So the good and the bad with the Bray promo this week. And we'll get into your boy Seth in just a minute because I got some points on him too. But the good and the bad with the Bray this week, I loved the visual. I love that they moved him to a different location. He's not just in the back. He's not in the dark room with the smoke blowing behind him. They're mixing it up. They're doing different things visually, which to the viewer at home is a welcome change. And I think it's the type of thing that I think worked really well, particularly when the Hardys were doing their Broken Universe in TNA. You were in different places all the time where you don't usually see these characters performing as these characters. Yeah. So I think that benefited it a lot. That said, I will ask you this simple question. Remind me of anything significant he said in that promo.
I just like the idea. He was talking about, how he is this force beneath all of the happenings in the WWE, and he was just trying to, and again, maybe not as successfully just because of his track record, it seems so far, but he's trying to continue to kind of push himself out there. I'm the person in the shadows. I'm the one who's, this godlike figure who's always going to be there. Now, if they let him win once in a while, maybe that would help his character. But I just like the writing of it.
Okay, and I understand why you would like the writing of it, but allow me to say this. You're not selling your product to a bunch of authors and sci-fi writers. You're selling your product. Now, I can sit here and recite to you lines from Enzo's promo on Raw, which we'll get to. I can recite to you the things that Cena said on SmackDown. I can't remember a goddamn thing Bray said. It's all cryptic and it's off the.
Maybe that's the difference between you and I. I write for the Shadow Vein podcast.
But I just asked you to tell me what he said in the promo, and you said, "Well, it's kind of sort of
okay.
It was about this."
It's different.
There's nothing memorable about it. There's nothing memorable about it.
You're right. Maybe that doesn't fit wrestling. Maybe that doesn't fit what we think of with wrestling.
No, Cena didn't use any catchphrases. He had clever lines that stuck in your head, but it's not like anything he said is something he runs around saying all the time. But he was direct. You knew exactly what he was saying. His message was clear. There was no... With Bray, it's just dancing around and all this cryptic shit. And for the layman, for the average viewer, and for the fan who wants to remember what happened on the show later, it has no impact. It carries no weight. It makes him very easily forgettable by the time the show's over. If you were to ask me what happened on Raw, Seth's promo and Bray's promo would be 10th on the list for me of things I remembered from Raw. And both of them are great in the ring.
Absolutely.
And I think part of what hurts Bray is we don't see him in the ring that often. They keep him as a special featured attraction, so he doesn't have that impact because we're not seeing him win week after week after week like we do with a Braun Strowman, for example.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But in terms of the promos, they were great when they first started because you sort of watched them and went, I'm trying to figure out what he's trying to say. There's a mystery to them. We know he's feuding with Seth, but what he's saying carries no weight. There's nothing behind it. There's nothing memorable about it, and I think it really hurts him.
Well, I think in general, this feud doesn't have much stakes. There's nothing really to this feud, which is, I think, that in itself, it's not carrying the storytelling either. I don't understand why this match is happening, aside from the fact that these are two good workers that are going to put on a good technical, actual wrestling match. But yeah, no, I'm not a fan of this particular program.
Well, that leads us to your boy Seth Rollins there, and so he came out and basically just jobs out Kurt Hawkins, as you would expect him to, as rightfully he should. But then he cuts the promo, and he does this thing that Seth is doing now, where all of a sudden, out of nowhere, after being a babyface essentially for the better part of a year, he's now being very overt and very public about, hey, I'm a nice guy. I did bad things before, but now I'm good. Now you cheer for me. And I thought it was good the first time because I thought it was some clarity on his personality.
On his character.
Yeah, that we never got before. But now it's almost like they're attempting to beat you over the head with why Seth is a good guy and you should cheer for him. And to me, that just reeks of the fact that they've created a character in Seth Rollins as a face that nobody really cares about.
Yeah.
There's nothing you care about with Seth Rollins whenever he does anything. He's a good in-ring performer, although he's stealing Kenny Omega's finisher, which is a little, overt now, given how popular Kenny Omega's become.
Yeah.
But he went from stealing Triple H's to stealing Kenny Omega's. He should probably try to come up with something of his own. That said,
he had one, but they just won't let him use it now.
Well, I think he stole that from someone else too. I forget who it was, but in any event,
wrestling move isn't stolen at this point,
Fair enough. But I can't get into anything Seth Rollins has done lately.
They're not writing him well. They're not giving him any really in-depth since the whole Triple H thing. He's been
Even that.
Well, I mean, there were some missteps with that, absolutely.
Big time. I think that could have been very compelling and well written. And I think maybe his injury kind of threw it off because they were kind of wishy-washy about will he or won't he. But I think just the way that was written was so poorly done. There was such a great story you could tell there. And I think he started to tell it in the last couple of weeks with these promos, but it's almost a too little too late situation for me.
Yeah.
And maybe we just are reaching a point where we realize, despite what we may have thought at the beginning, Seth is just better as a heel.
Yeah, and maybe unless they can find him someone and they actually spend some time building, let's say, a program instead of just like, let's just throw these two together. Maybe give it an actual chance with some good writing and a good backstory. But yeah, maybe he needs to go back to the heel, which I'm fine with, because if you look at Raw, you could use a few more good heels probably.
Yeah, and I think the other part of it is we live in an era where the product is so oversaturated, and I think this is part of what helps so much with the Samoa Joe Brock Lesnar program, is that it's a match we've never ever seen before.
Right.
Who has Seth got left to work with that we've never seen him work with? Maybe AJ. That's about it.
Mm-hmm.
Nakamura, sure. But other than that, he's done programs with Roman ad nauseum. He's done programs with Kevin Owens. He's done programs. He's had a couple of weeks worth of matches with Braun Strowman already. I mean, there's very few top guys for him to work with where it's exciting and different. He's even this Bray Wyatt thing is a bit of a rehash. I think they've had a few matches in the past on TV. I just feel like they're kind of blowing their wad too quickly on a lot of these matches, and especially when I sit there and I look at a couple weeks ago when on SmackDown they gave us for free Kevin Owens and Nakamura.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, that's a problem and something I've argued in the past, that creative over the last several years doesn't want to put the time and the effort into actually building a storyline, and instead just throw us, the same match over and over and over again. There was a time when the Miz Dean Ambrose thing was kind of cool. I liked the program, but then you saw it again and again, and on TV and then on pay-per-view. And then now they switch shows, but they go together and they're feuding again and again. And it's like, if they, the last good build that I can honestly remember is what they, and I usually don't like using Daniel Bryan because I'm not as big of a Daniel Bryan fan, but Daniel Bryan chasing the title, that whole feud, that whole build, that was really well done. They took a lot of time with that. they're not willing to take any risks to take the time to tell a story anymore, and that is hurting the product in a lot of ways.
See, I will go far more recently than that, and I know these are people you're not necessarily huge fans of, but you look at that mixed tag match with John Cena and Nikki Bella at WrestleMania. That had storyline, that had development. They spent time and focus on it. They made it a focal point.
Absolutely.
And it worked. And you went from that match being the match that a lot of people were like, oh God, I can't believe they're doing this, to a match, wow, I really want to see how this plays out in the ring.
I was excited. Now, the end result of that match was not great because they didn't really give it enough time. You know, I wanted to see more of that. You know, I don't think Maurice even got into the ring for more than like a second. But
yeah, I think there were a lot of circumstances around that.
Yeah,
Nikki
probably.
Bella's health not being the least of which.
Right, absolutely. And I think that honestly, yeah, that's another good example. And they took time, and it worked.
Building Strowman's they've done a great job building
That's
Strowman.
True. That's true. They don't do that enough for these guys, and that's why you have these top guys kind of floundering because they've already done everything, and then you've got these middle and lower card guys who don't even have anything to do because they won't put the effort into trying to build them like they did in the Attitude Era. Right. You know, you could have positive or negative thoughts about how the Attitude Era was, but one of the good things about the Attitude Era was that everyone had something to do. They had stories that developed. They gave them time. Even the lower card people had things of interest to do instead of just jobbing out.
Yeah, and then we're not allowed to mention his name on the show, but the head writer of Raw during that time period has been on record a couple times as saying that was a big focus for him, was that they wanted him to only focus on these top guys, but he thought he was so much better off giving character and definition and story to the guys in the middle of the card. Right. Because eventually that helps them get up to the top. You're not stuck with the same 3 or 4 people at the top. And that's kind of where they're at right now. Yeah. We can run through the list of guys that are criminally underutilized. We talked about Alpha. We talked about Dillinger. Hell, you've got the freaking Revival has been back for 2 weeks, and they're working main event. They're not even on Raw. Look at Gallows and Anderson. This is an all-world tag team. Mm-hmm. And somebody with some idea of what's going on in that company needs to explain to me why a thrown-together team with very little charisma like Sheamus and Cesaro are the focal point of your tag team division right now, when that could be Gallows and Anderson, 2 guys who are a credible tag team. They look like a tag team, and they are great and entertaining on a microphone.
I'll disagree with you a little bit, but also agree with you, a little bit of both. I like Sheamus, Cesaro, but there's room for both Gallows and Anderson to actually be pushed as a real threatening team. And there's room for that on a 3-hour show if they actually gave any care about their tag team division. Mm-hmm. If you had more than one tag team actual, storyline going on at a time, then maybe you could have both of these teams. Because I love, actually, Sheamus and Cesaro are one of my favorite parts of Raw, honestly, nowadays. Just because I really enjoy, they've really melded as a tag team. You could disagree with that, that's fine. But my point is, you can have more than one team, and that, I think, is the problem. You have these great tag teams, like you mentioned, all those teams, really great. They're not being used because Vince hates tag teams.
How about the Ascension, the Colognes? I mean, the list goes on and on.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I'm a huge Ascension mark, and the way that they've been used pisses me off every single week.
And I've mentioned it on the past, but if you listen to the Pritchard Show, periodically it pops up that Vince is just not a fan of tag teams, just doesn't like them.
No.
And that's why you see a lot of times teams just split up before their time is up. I mean, I could make a case that the Shield still had a good run left in them before they broke them up, but Vince just can't get over his hatred of tag teams, despite the fact that tag team wrestling is incredibly hot in this country right now. You look at the indies, who are the hottest indie acts in the country right now? I'm not a particular fan of them, but there's no denying the Young Bucks are selling their freaking merch in Hot Topic and selling out of it. So much so that Hot Topic in international markets is now ordering the Young Bucks stuff. I mean, tag team wrestling, when it's done right, look at what's one of the preeminent memories you have of WrestleMania in the Attitude Era?
TLC. Well, the TLC, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Tag teams can be incredibly interesting and engaging for the fans. You can tell great stories with your tag teams. Unfortunately, Vince doesn't want to do that, and the end result is that a lot of these tag teams get kind of shoved to the side. Now,
and then they get broken up, and then you get one person on that tag team maybe goes on and does something, and then you have another talent that's wasted.
Right. And in a lot of cases lately, it's just kind of both talents that end up
Yeah, you're right.
floundering. I mean, you very rarely have a Shawn Michaels coming out of any of
Mhm.
these tag teams lately. You usually have a Titus O'Neil and a Darren Young, you know?
Right.
Um, but anyway, we touched on it a little bit, but we also had the return of your 16-time World Heavyweight Champion, John Cena, to
It's true.
SmackDown. Did an interesting angle. So my take on this, I almost split this into two segments. Cena coming out, I thought cut a great promo. I loved, particularly, really enjoyed the line, "I'm not a part-timer, I'm an all-timer." I thought that was
Mhm.
tremendous.
Yeah.
Um, I thought he did a great job of, as well as you can, of explaining the whole free agent thing. Like, hey, I've got a limited amount of time left in this company, and I want to face all the best guys I can face. And if you think I'm not talking about you, then I'm probably talking about you. I thought he did a great job with that. I was engaged and interested in what he was saying. And then Rusev came out. And I'm a fan of Rusev, and there's another guy who I think has been criminally underutilized in his time. Except then he cuts the anti-American promo.
Mhm.
Again, the same promo Kevin Owens is cutting, the same promo
Yeah.
Jinder Mahal's cutting.
I mean, I'll cut him a little bit of slack, a little bit, because of the fact that it was the 4th of July. They, here's what they could have done. If you are going to use that, my note was, don't have Cena say, "Let's have a flag on a pole match," and then don't have it. Have the match then. Get that out of the way. Cena goes on, does whatever. Rusev, has a strong showing. He's not going to look that bad. It's you get up and you grab a fucking flag. It's not like you take a pinfall. It's not like you submit in that particular match. Let him have it. Get a little USA chant going, and then shove Rusev onto something else. Give him, or have an interference of someone and start an actual feud with Rusev.
Right.
I mean, we've seen the John Cena Rusev feud before.
Right. And the flag match, I think, goes to what we talked about with the ambulance match. It's a way for neither guy to really get pinned, beaten decisively, and both kind of stay strong. And it makes perfect sense if you want to do a flag match on the 4th of July, USA, rah, rah, rah. But to have this flag match take place at Battleground sort of made no sense to me. We have our first guest, Nina Marie, on the side.
That. Hi, Nina.
She says, Scott Dawson of the Revival was pinned this week by Kalisto on Main Event, touching on what we said earlier on, and that hopefully Rusev will defeat Cena without pinning him at Battleground. I think you're going to be disappointed then, because I really have a hard time thinking that Vince McMahon is going to allow the match at Battleground, to end with Rusev waving the Bulgarian flag and the American flag still stuck in the corner.
Are they actually going to do that match at the pay-per-view, or are they going to? Is that confirmed?
Yep.
Okay. I want to make sure, because I didn't know if that was going to be like an actual flag match there, or if Cena just threw a throwaway comment as like, we should do it for the 4th of July, and then they just have a regular wrestling match.
Yeah, no, they announced it's going to be at Battleground.
Okay, gotcha. Scott Dawson being pinned by Kalisto, that's a tragedy right there.
Yeah, well, we talked about how they treat the tag teams lately. And speaking of how they've treated tag teams, let's talk about how we kicked off Raw this week with Enzo Amore coming out and cutting what I thought was a great promo, complete with we talked about some very memorable lines where he talks about, the only thing your shirt's going to say is "casshole." Thought that was a great one that fans are going to be able to latch onto and kind of cheer that into a catchphrase. So I thought a little bit weird, almost like he forgot a line. He drops the mic, then comes back, picks it up, and cuts a little more promo. I thought that was a little strange.
Yeah.
But then they cut to Cass in the back, and you get a legit. And this is what I'm talking about, is particularly, and I keep going back to it, but I think it's the best thing they're doing. Joe and Brock. There's real physicality. You really feel the anger. It feels like these are two guys that want to fucking kill each other, and that's been missing for so long that I think it's been a great touch. Now, Enzo's probably going to get his ass kicked in this match. He has no business even being competitive in this match. But I'm now interested to see it because of the way they did that.
And I think it's going to be great, because you're going to have Enzo. He's going to lose. He's going to get his ass kicked terribly, but he's not going to give up. He's gonna keep getting his ass kicked again and again and again, and keep getting up. And there's going to be so much emotion in it that it's going to be great. And honestly, Enzo and Cass over the last couple of weeks, that has been my absolute favorite part of Raw.
Yeah.
I think I even enjoyed that more than the Samoa Joe stuff, just because there's that. It's a good story, and I think
a betrayal aspect to it.
Absolutely, and it's been told really, really well.
Right.
Now,
Well, except for the Corey Graves part, but yeah.
Well, there was a thing on Botchamania that was cracking me up. I don't know if you're what is it, Phoenix Wright? If you've played the Phoenix Wright games, I know you're not much of a video game player, but they did a whole skit where they played that with all the sound effects from Phoenix Wright, and it was actually hilarious. It was pretty great. But yeah, no, it was. It's really good, and I think it's gonna possibly be, it'll be the most emotional, I think, match that I'm really looking forward to on that card.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll get into our predictions later, but if I'm booking that match, I'm basically, and I'll go a little bit off of what I said here, I would book it in such a way that you're sitting there with Cass just beating Enzo relentlessly to the point where he won't stop, and Enzo can't keep getting up, and the referee eventually disqualifies Cass for just beating him too badly. I would give Enzo the win in that way, and I think both guys come out better for it. I think the danger you run into here is that if Cass goes out and squashes Enzo, like I think he's going to, you sort of kind of take all the wind out of any Enzo push. If Enzo goes out and takes a beating, but like you said, almost to that Stone Cold thing at WrestleMania where he takes a beating but just never gives up, I think you can find something to do with him and keep him credible by doing that. So I think that would be the way to go if I was booking that out. We talked about the best match that we saw on SmackDown this week. For my money, the best match on Raw this week was easily Finn Balor and Cesaro.
Yeah, that was good.
And as soon as I heard they were making that match, I was instantly semi-aroused because this is one of those internet.
So was I, but I want to say so was I, but for a completely different reason.
Probably for the same reason my wife was. She's a big Finn Balor fan. Particularly the leaning on the ropes crotch shot right under the bag that they like to do.
Your wife and I understand. We're on the same wavelength right there.
There you go. But in any event, I thought the match was really good. It was sort of an indie dream match. I thought they did a really good job in the ring. I would have liked to see less kind of Hardy Boys involvement and all that stuff that went into it. I understand why they did it,
right?
But I would have liked to see it. But I thought some of the sequences were really good, really well timed out, and a lot of those were very precision in terms of when things had to happen, and they pulled it all off really well. And at the end of the day, the singles guy beat the tag team guy. So I think they told the story in exactly the way they needed to.
Yeah, no, it's good. And it's one of those things where, again, they don't really have a really good story right now for Finn Balor, but they're still, I think with Finn, they're doing an okay job. And maybe it's just because that Finn is so over that you could just put him in a match like this and he doesn't necessarily have to have a story. It looks like they're kind of leaning toward Balor and the Drifter. And I don't know if that's a match that's made it to Great Balls of Fire or not.
Yeah, it is.
It is? Okay, that's official.
I think that's probably going to end up being the kickoff show, but it hasn't been officially announced yet.
Okay, yeah. So
at least it's not on the Wikipedia page. I pulled the matches off.
Okay, fair enough. And if they don't do it, they could at least have some sort of backstage segment between the two, or him coming out, the Drifter to rile up the crowd, and getting Finn Balor just coming out there and beating the shit out of him would be a really good thing. So yeah, it was a great match, and I really enjoyed it. We got someone else on the side there, Matt Riley, who says, I remember one of you two, wasn't me, by the way.
We know for sure it wasn't Andy.
I haven't been on here in a while. One of you 2 weeks ago mentioned that Cass nervously repeated lines a few times when he was cutting the promo after he revealed it was him. And I noticed that Enzo did the same. I don't remember that, but again, these are not actors per se, and the current product is forcing them to memorize lines and going out there and doing that. And I think that hurts the product when you don't let some of these people be a little more off the cuff, especially the ones that are more capable. Like I bet Enzo could be a little more off the cuff and probably hold his own.
Yeah, I don't know how much they write for Enzo, how much he goes with it. It seems like a lot of Enzo stuff is off the top of his head, but to me, that almost added a little something to it. Like you felt like there was genuine hurt, and he almost lost his train of thought. He was so upset. I thought that almost added to it the way they did that. He also says, other than that, Enzo's promo was beautiful, and I'm excited to see their match at #WWE Balls.
Me too, Matt. Me too.
And I think we all are. We're as many balls as we can see on Sunday night. I think we're all excited for it.
I'm all right there for you.
There you go. What did you think of the original logo for Great Balls of Fire, Andy?
Did they ever change that?
Yeah, they did change it. It's no longer. It's no longer
because that was a very large penis. That's.
Who do you think was the inspiration for that logo? I kind of wonder.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking with this title. I don't know anything with the logo. It's just like they couldn't come up with anything. They couldn't use wasn't there like a WCW summer based one?
Bash at the Beach.
Bash the Beach. Couldn't they have done that? Well, I guess they're not going to be at a beach, but you know, it's.
I was always a fan of the Great American Bash. I think that
they
would
could have done that. It's close enough to the 4th of July. Like literally, they could have done Great American Bash, and that would have been fine with me. Give her those Great Balls of Fire.
Agreed. And actually, it's funny because you mentioned a word that stuck in my head there for a second when you said title,
balls.
and balls always stuck in my head. But when you said title, it reminded me of a point I wanted to bring up earlier, and I totally let it slip out of my head. And I know I keep going back to it, but to me, it's the best thing they got going right now. But Samoa Joe and Brock Lesnar, and the other part of that I forgot to mention earlier, is that as far as I can remember, this is the first time I've legitimately cared about a Universal title match. I will say outside of Finn Balor and Seth Rollins, because there was the intrigue of will they put it on Finn Balor in his first match kind of thing, first pay-per-view match. I thought that was good. But other than that, you look at it since then, what do we have? Kevin Owens feuding with Seth Rollins for it. I had high expectations. It fell painfully short of those high expectations. And then ended up with Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns. And then it was Kevin Owens and Goldberg, and it was Goldberg and Lesnar. This is the first time I'm looking at a Universal title match and being excited to see it. And I think that's big for that title.
I will one-up you on that, and I will say that this is the first time that I think I'm actually interested in a Brock Lesnar match, and that is saying a lot for me because my Brock Lesnar hate is pretty high up there. So I'm actually excited. I want to see this match, and to get me interested at all in Brock Lesnar, and hopefully they won't let me down, or not they, but Lesnar will let me down. But I am looking forward to it.
And we touched on earlier the Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman incident, so I don't think we need to get into too much of that.
No, probably not.
But one thing I particularly do want to mention is that that whole thing came about at the end of the Braun Strowman and Apollo Crews match.
Yeah.
Which contained one of the best goddamn spots I've ever seen in my life, which was Apollo Crews has him down, and he's going for his standing moonsault.
Oh, yeah. I was trying to think of what you were getting at, but yes. My God.
And typically that's a spot where a guy gets his knees up, maybe rolls out of the way. No.
Strowman
just picks his legs up and legit in midair kicks Apollo Crews halfway across the ring like he was playing kickball in a schoolyard.
This is not Heath Slater. This is Apollo Crews. This is a big dude.
Right. And I can't remember the last time I legit jumped out of my chair and went, holy shit, to a match on Monday Night Raw. I did that for that.
You could tell, like, even the commentators, Corey Graves was like, oh my God, like he marked out at that moment. So like that was a big moment in that match.
Yeah, that was dangerous as hell. And thankfully Apollo was okay.
To Apollo for wanting to even go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know what? To Apollo's credit, he went for it because it's the type of thing we're sitting here talking about right now. And when's the last time we talked about Apollo Crews in any kind of
no, we haven't.
Good formula. So hats off to them for that spot because that was amazing. Very much like that. Cedric Alexander and Noam Dar continued their story. It really doesn't seem to end.
I don't really care.
I'm a big fan of Cedric. I think he's really being wasted on this and the whole Alicia Fox thing. I think Cedric could be doing much more. So that's sort of a disappointment.
Well, that's the problem with 205 Live in general and their stars. So
yeah, I don't want to go too deep into that. But we have two topics that kind of bleed together because on SmackDown we had Miss Money in the Bank, Carmella, come out for her Carmella-bration, which I thought was a nice little touch, along with James Ellsworth. Again, I think Carmella's mic work over the last month or so has just really gone way up. I don't know if she's just paying more attention to it, if she's really beyond. Ellsworth, by the way, has really done wonders for the Carmella character too. He's doing a great job. So? Oh, he's doing a great job of being there, being the little lapdog for the pretty girl. I think it's tremendous.
I don't know. I'm kind of over Ellsworth. I think
if they continue to use him as they were before, I would absolutely agree with you. But the way they've transitioned him into, you don't see male valets for female wrestlers.
You don't. That's true.
Often. And I love that touch.
I think that the month suspension will be good. Like for people like me who are, he grates on me so much to the point where it's like it gets to the point where it's not entertaining for me. Yeah. So I think that here's what's going to happen. I think he's going to disappear for a month, and then when that month is up, that's when he's going to show back up, and that's when she's going to cash in, and that's how she's going to get the title with his help again. And I think because that's going to build so much more heel heat that she again won the title because of Ellsworth, and it's going to look like, oh well, she's not going to have a chance, and maybe even like show a few moments of weakness with her by herself. But yeah, I think that's ultimately what they're going to do. Maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, I think that it's time to get Ellsworth off TV just for a little while, just to kind of give us a little bit of breathing room, maybe give Carmella a little bit of time to stretch, on her own and see what she can do, without that. But yeah, it's
the way I envision them doing this now is with Ellsworth suspended for 30 days, and that's what we didn't get to. Brian came out during their promo and basically announced, suspending him for 30 days, fining him $10,000. I don't know how he'll ever afford to pay that. But yeah, I think during that 30-day period, what you're going to see probably from a storytelling perspective is Carmella's going to lose every match she's in. And they're going to tell the story that she's not capable of winning without Ellsworth there. And that will probably, again, lead to him returning when she cashes in. Like you mentioned, I think that would be a great storytelling device and a great way to get there.
Great
now,
deal, Pete.
Whether we get there soon or not sort of became a little bit of a question mark in my mind this week when Naomi debuted a brand new women's championship belt.
It's true.
Same design, but the kids like to say stuff is lit. Well, her belt is definitely lit.
It is.
It is very fluorescent. There are lights adorning it, and they redid the faceplate too because they put a light right in the middle. Very similar, and you might remember this, Andy, because you kind of grew up around the same time I did. But when I'm watching that light kind of go around the W, all I could think about was the kit from Knight Rider with the light flashing back and forth across the front of the car.
Absolutely, I agree wholeheartedly.
But it was funny because Troy and I on the show a couple months ago had a whole conversation about how Naomi's entrance would be so much better if her belt glowed because she comes out and you can't see it. And, I don't want to say that I've told people that Shane listens to the show in the past, but hey,
maybe he does. Someone does.
We have a downloader from Stamford, Connecticut. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, so they went to some expense to redo that belt in that way, I'd imagine. Right. So how quickly they're going to have her take that belt off, given how much money they put into it, I don't know. We're going to have to find out. But that almost speaks to me like we're going to have at least another month or so of her with the title to make it worth the expense of changing the belt. I know Adam hates that belt. What are your thoughts on it?
I like it. I mean, but then again, I have been a huge fan of Naomi since she got this glow gimmick. If I'm oftentimes I'll watch SmackDown kind of quickly and Raw kind of quickly because I don't have right now there's time I have a lot of time, but normally I don't have a lot of time during the week when I'm working. So sometimes I'll be grading while I'm kind of watching it. I won't pay attention, but anytime I hear her music kick, like kind of play, my attention is on the screen because her entrance always blows me away. And I don't know why it does. Maybe I'm just simple-minded and I like colors, but it's great. I like her. She's really come a long way since when she first debuted with her in-ring ability. I think it's great that they're giving her a run with the title. And yeah, I have a problem with, I think, how quickly she's been beating Lana, the fact that Lana is very over with the fans. So, I kind of want to see a little more competitiveness, although I like how Lana has been like, oh, no, my shoulder was up. I need another rematch. And it's just, she's really playing the heel very, very well. Right. So I don't know where they go from here. If they go with, it looks like maybe her versus Tamina is maybe the next thing they're going to do to kind of give her like an in-between.
Yeah, or
sort of thing.
Tamina's going to train Lana, something like that. I don't know where they're entirely going with it, but they brought it up on Talking Smack, but they're not really on the main broadcast that they were in Team Bad together. I thought that was a little bit of a failure of commentary to tell people that and remind them of that storyline that they were partners at one point. But yeah, you talked about the entrance, and I think that really has done wonders for Naomi.
Oh God, yes.
It's given her personality, her character, her definition. And here's the thing that I think gets lost a lot of the time. That entrance and her persona, I think, has really endeared her to that audience they were hoping to get with the Bayley character, but they so mishandled that character that she doesn't even have those little girls cheering for her like that anymore. They've sort of gone over to Naomi, who's kind of a cooler version of that. So I think that's really good on her. She's done a heck of a job. I'm not as huge a fan of her in-ring work. I don't think she's as bad as Troy thinks she is, but I don't think, you look at a roster where she's on the same roster as a Charlotte or a Becky Lynch, who I think are far superior in-ring performers. But sometimes look at The Rock. You don't always have to be the best in-ring performer if you've got a gimmick that the fans care about. And I think that's what she hit on. She's touched on a very good nerve.
Absolutely. I agree. 100%.
We also had another segment of Mike and Maria and the The power of love being interrupted again by Sami Zayn. So much power in this love, Andy, that it knocked the cameras out.
I love Sami's. I mean, okay, they're not using Sami very well. However, I love the goofy, like I'm just a nice guy, and man, love is great, isn't it, Sami Zayn? You know, I like that.
I don't mind that. I hate when they get into the Larry David stuttering, rambling Woody Allen.
I'll agree with that.
Zayn.
I will agree with that. But you probably have more. I don't follow indie wrestling or anything not WWE as much as like you or some of the other people on the show. So like I know Maria obviously from her time in WWE. I saw Maria a little bit in TNA. I don't know much of anything about this guy, Mike Kanellis. I know he's supposed to be really good. If that is the case, if I heard correctly and he is good, they're not doing a lot at this point to make me care about him. But then again, I don't know. If you get him if you continue to build this and then he can deliver a really good match with Sami Zayn, that might change my mind. But I don't know. It's interesting.
Well, you came to the right place because Mike Bennett is a local guy, competes. He actually still trains down in Providence at the XWA Center. Really good dude, guy I've been a fan of, and I think Adam's worked shows with him in the past as well. Just a great all-around guy, works his ass off. So I'm very happy for him that he's getting this break. He did spend some time in TNA. He touched on that. It was big, sort of rose to national prominence in Ring of Honor. Where he's part of the Kingdom with Taven and God, I'm totally blanking on the other guy.
I'm not a Ring of Honor guy. I did manage to watch like a couple episodes of Ring of Honor like a couple months ago because it was randomly on TV when I was in a hotel room. But
yeah, there was 3 of them, and I apologize to whoever it is because I know I'm forgetting somebody.
That's
obvious.
Okay. The fans probably know who you're talking about. So
yeah, exactly. But in any event, so he rose to prominence there. Got a good deal with TNA to go in with him and Maria, and I thought they were the best thing on that show for a good long stretch of time. Maria is just top notch as a performer on a microphone. You can't get much better than what Maria brings to the table these days. But in terms of their WWE use, it's often been said by a lot of people, myself and people way smarter than me, that Mike Bennett has always worked a WWE style, but not in the WWE. So we're all kind of very interested to see how it plays out now that he's there. I think we're all expecting big things out of him. This is clearly the introductory period for these two characters, but I think a good opening program with Sami, where they come out on top, could do wonders for making this a legitimate thing. And I think it's going to benefit him a lot when you actually get to see him in the ring. So
yeah, I think I just need to see him, and I could go out there and look for his matches, but I don't know. I kind of want to be surprised, honestly. You know, I kind of want to be that like dumb WWE fan who doesn't know this indie guy and kind of see what he does, especially if he gets a match with Sami Zayn right off the bat. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, exactly. We'll see how it plays out. I like the idea of what they're doing. One thing I haven't been crazy about is the fact that we are once again getting another match between Randy Orton and Jinder Mahal, this time in the fabled Punjabi prison.
Why? Why?
Now,
okay. Oh, God. Okay. I haven't been on a show in a while, so I want to just start by saying I'm okay with Jinder Mahal being champion. I kind of like it. Now, him going against Randy Orton every time, not a fan. And especially, okay, I get that, like, okay, so he went over on Father's Day or whatever and in front of, like, Randy's dad. So, Randy, if you're going to tell that story, yeah, you're going to need at least one more match. Throw it on SmackDown the next night and get it over with and use that to build another person to kind of face Jinder. You know, it's, you know, even if it's John Cena, I don't care. But, like, I don't know.
Here's the problem.
In this cell match, I'm not looking forward to it.
Here's the problem, though. You're one pay-per-view away from SummerSlam, and they're not going to want to do a repeat at SummerSlam if they can help it. So they want whatever they're doing at SummerSlam. The working theory is Cena versus Mahal, but they're not going to want to give that away at the Battleground before SummerSlam.
True.
So this is a placeholder. There's an existing feud. You don't need to build. You throw the Punjabi prison and you add a different element to it, and you give Jinder a little more credibility with a third straight win over, 13-time WWE champion. And then you keep the match at SummerSlam fresh. I sort of understand what they're doing. What I will say was I thought on SmackDown this week, you saw something you don't see very often, but when you do, it's great. And that is a fully engaged and an energetic Randy Orton.
Yeah, it's true. He was.
he had fire behind what he said. He had passion and believability. He wasn't just slowly meandering through his lines and trying to intimidate you with the cadence of his voice. He was on point. I thought Jinder was a nice compliment, a nice foil to what Randy was doing. I love Jinder's entrance. One of my favorites.
Me too. I think it's great, and I love the fact that he's playing that heel champion who people, the fans are going to be like, well, he doesn't deserve the title, and he plays into it by having bodyguards that do all the work for him.
Right.
I like that. I think that's great.
Yeah, see, I would have really enjoyed had they just left it at him playing the nobody believed in me, you guys never believed in me, you blah, 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 rather than playing the anti-American thing and you hate me because I'm Indian, because that's not really a thing.
Yeah.
But, it is what it is. It's sort of cheap heat that they're going for, and now they're doing it, like I said earlier, with 3 different guys, which sort of takes away from it for me. But I think they've done a very good job of hiding Jinder's limitations in the ring with his matches. The Singh brothers being a big, big part of hiding that. I think they've done a nice job with this feud with Randy. I'm not horribly upset that we have to see it one more time. I'd prefer something fresh and different, but I understand why they're doing it this way.
Hey, this is fresh and different, man. Look at those. Look at the structure.
Well, and for the first time, we're going to get a Punjabi prison match where we have 2 guys who can actually work a decent work rate.
That's fair. We don't have the Great Khali in this one, so maybe, just maybe, this one will turn out okay.
There's no Big Show in there. There's no Undertaker. There's no Khali. It's not big lumbering guys. It's 2 guys that can actually get in there and tell an interesting story. So we'll see how it plays out. I'm hoping for something good, and you never know. Maybe we'll get Mr. Money in the Bank cashing in that night. I sort of doubt it, but you never know. I could totally see Orton winning that title and Corbin cashing in. That wouldn't shock me in the least.
Well, since we're out of WWE topics, basically, and you just mentioned Money in the Bank, I do want to talk about something that I'm sure you talked about last week, and I don't know, because again, I didn't get the chance to listen to the episode. However, my thoughts on last week's ladder match, last week's ladder match, the women's rematch, which, by the way, again, that SmackDown opening video hypes up so many amazing things, and it just doesn't deliver. That ladder match was boring. Nothing exciting happened. It was slow. It was plodding. They used one ladder the whole time. It felt safe. It felt drawn out. I was really let down with that. I just wanted to throw that in before we move on.
Well, see, I think that's sort of the spot you find yourself in, because the women aren't going to take the kind of risks the men take in those ladder matches. So you're going to have
2 ladder matches.
But I will say this: I enjoyed the match at the pay-per-view more than the match on SmackDown. If you took the match at the pay-per-view with the ending on SmackDown, I think you'd have had a much better, stronger performance all around. I thought there were some good spots. I think on the TV they were trying to pop a rating, and they did. They had their highest rating in quite a while.
True.
So,
but then they don't deliver, and that's what pisses me off.
Yeah, but I mean, you got to also remember, from a performance standpoint, these women are not used to that kind of physicality that they did at the pay-per-view, and then to ask them to do it 2 days later,
you're right.
It's a big toll on the body. So I think they probably did play that second match a little bit safer, but I totally understand why.
You're right. Shall we go on to NXT real quick?
Yeah, we can do that, because this week, the one standout this week from NXT for me was the NXT Championship match. We had Roderick Strong and Bobby Roode. Bobby Roode defending it. Not a huge Roddy guy. I mean, I've always liked his work, but there's no real charisma there. There's no real personality.
I'll agree with you with that, yeah.
He's always been a lot better when he's worked a heel persona than a face persona. He just has a hard time, I think, connecting with how to get fans to cheer for him. In order to do that and to offset that struggle that he has, they've sort of implemented the family man angle with him, with his wife and his kid. And so his wife was sitting at ringside for this match, just tugging at the heartstrings just a little bit more. Bobby Roode made it a point to kind of interact with her and taunt her throughout the match. They had a really good match. The work was great in the ring. They had back and forth, as you'd expect, because these are 2 world-class performers. They got in there. Roddy hits his backbreaker, goes into the pin, gets the 3. Referee comes out. Oh, Roode put his foot under the ropes. I didn't see it till after the 3, which I don't know has ever been a thing.
Apparently.
But in any event, Roddy goes out, doesn't see the referee, goes out to celebrate with his wife. They're hugging. The referee trying to tell him. Roode cheap shots him, throws him back in the ring. No, right in front of his wife, says something to her, then DDTs him on the floor, throws him back in the ring, hits the glorious DDT, gets the pinfall. I thought this was really good storytelling. I've said all along, I think Drew McIntyre is going to be the guy at Brooklyn, but the way they sort of ended this leads me to believe that this isn't the end of this story. So maybe we're looking at a triple threat to headline, take over in Brooklyn this year. I don't know. We're going to have to see how that plays out. But for the first time, I really found myself caring about Roddy in this match, in this program. I think they've done a very good job with him. And this match was a great culmination of what they've been doing.
See, I'm behind. I'm going to take your word for it. That's one.
Well, so I just spoiled the entire.
No, that's fine. Whatever. I see things anyway. Like where I'm at right now. Like I'll watch like the takeovers and stuff usually. So I know kind of what's going on. But I'm back where like Sanity's just debuted, so I'm a little ways back. So
summer's your catch-up time, right?
Exactly. I'll get it caught up eventually, but it sounds like a good match, and I love Bobby Roode. I think Bobby Roode is fantastic. So keep him as champion for now, and let him keep doing what he's doing.
Yeah, don't let this sway you in any way when you watch the Bobby Roode Nakamura match. I don't want to spoil anything for you. Bobby Roode wins.
Shocker.
So we've touched on a lot of the WWE stuff, but there were two major events in the last week that were non-WWE related. I don't know if you saw or heard anything about any of them.
Absolutely.
Okay,
I have a little bit about TNA. I know that there's something with like Jeff Jarrett's in control now or something, and Global Force is kind of a part of it or something. I don't know.
Yeah, they've merged Global Force with TNA. They're going to keep the Global Force name as the company name.
I think they call it Global Force Impact then and get rid of TNA because that's so childish.
Impact is going to be the name of the weekly television show.
Good. Well, that's good. Scrub the TNA thing completely. I think it'd be great.
That's the plan. The problem is people are still going to call it TNA. It's just so ingrained in people.
They still call the WWE events pay-per-views, but pay-per-view buys really aren't the draw anymore. It's a network event.
But they did hold their big event, Slammiversary, this past week. Some notable things to come out of it, including, I know you were a fan. I believe you had said you were a fan of the Hardy's broken gimmick back in the TNA
I really
days.
enjoyed it. Yeah.
They sort of used a lot of those elements in the announcer tag team match, which was basically you had Jeremy Borash teaming with Joseph Park, aka Abyss, to take on what's his name, Josh Matthews, and his partner, Big Papa Pump, Scott Steiner.
They're letting Josh Matthews wrestle?
Yes. And on paper, I think every one of us looked at it and went, what the fuck are they doing here? Like, what is this for? But they weaved it together, much like the Broken Universe. They left the ringside area. They had pre-taped skits that were just humorous. Shark Boy got involved at one point.
Wait, Shark Boy still?
Shark Boy was a thing in this show.
Oh, my God.
At a certain point, Father James Mitchell showed up, which I was a mark for. I'm a big Father James Mitchell guy, and gives Joseph Park the Abyss mask. Then he shows up as Abyss. It's a really fun match, complete with a thumbtack spot where Abyss hits the choke slam on Josh onto the thumbtacks. Credit to announcer for taking a thumbtack spot. Jeremy Borash does a frog splash onto Matthews on the tacks.
Jesus Christ.
So much so that Borash got the tacks all in his hands. And if you go back and watch, he almost goes into immediate shock as he hits him. To the point where he had to roll over and Abyss had to make the cover, which I think was supposed to be for Borash. But he was so flustered by the thumbtacks that he couldn't even make the cover. But yeah, it was a really interesting, fun match in a way that
was it like, so when you say broken style, was it like pre-taped kind of thing?
Yeah, a lot of backstage stuff. They ended up in a hotel fighting in a pool, and there's a lot of wacky off the cuff stuff. At one point, Matthews and Steiner are chasing them in a golf cart. Yeah, there's just a lot of crazy stuff. You can probably find it on the internet somewhere.
We'll have to look that one up actually,
and go check that out. And Steiner played his part really well, which was kind of entertaining. But also on the same show, and so here was my biggest problem with the show, and I'm a fan of Eddie Edwards. He came up through here. I've done shows with him. Good guy. His wife's great. That said, they went into a Full Metal Mayhem match immediately following this match, and that match had a bunch of thumbtack spots too. And I kind of feel like whoever put the show together needed to distance the matches
absolutely,
with the thumbtack spots. I think it really kind of took away from it. So that was a down portion for me. They had Del Rio, or Patron, I should say, and Bobby Lashley in the main event for the unified title. Not my favorite match ever. I think they kind of screwed the build on this when on his first night in the company, they had Patron beat Lashley clean and then sort of go, oh, well, the referee made a mistake, so I'll give him his title back. it just kind of took away from the whole thing for me. I think they would have been much better to not have them fight at all than build to this match, but they didn't do it. James Storm collapsed during a match as part of the storyline. Don't know where they're going to go with that. We'll find out. But EC3 got the win as a result. But Nina brings it up on the side, so I'll mention it now. NFL running back D'Angelo Williams teamed with Moose in a match against, I believe it was, oh God, who was it? I'm a fan of this guy too. I forget what his TNA name is. But it was Chris Adonis, the former Masterpiece, Chris Masters.
Oh.
WWE.
And his got a job.
Yeah. No, and his partner, the namer of dummies, God, I forget his name now. Why am I blanking on this? I'm having a rough night. I really am. I'm forgetting.
And I wish I could help you, but I don't follow a lot of wrestling these days. So.
I am forgetting people's names left and right. It'll come to me at some point. But in any event, D'Angelo Williams, who now, in retrospect, the stories come out, and this is coming from Moose and Jeremy Borash, so who knows if it's true. But the story that they're portraying is that D'Angelo Williams basically practiced wrestling and trained for 3 days prior to this match, and he looked every bit the professional wrestler as anyone else in this match. He was tremendous. Everything was really crisp. He did a good job. Everything looked legit. His selling was on point. His bumps were great. They had one spot at the end where the table didn't break on him. He went for a frog splash. The table didn't break. He kind of went ass over tea kettle and almost Eli Drake. Thank you, Nina Marie. Eli Drake is the other guy. I knew it started with an E, and I kept getting stuck on Ethan, thinking Ethan Carter. So thank you, Nina. I appreciate you bailing me out on that one. But he went ass over tea kettle and almost kind of did the bend yourself backwards over, which would have really been bad for his NFL career, I'm thinking.
Probably true.
Not so. I don't think it was so much his fault. I think that Moose kind of positioned the guy on the table incorrectly. I have to go back and watch it again to be sure. But I was very, very entertained by what he did. I did not expect to be, but it was good. It was a nice little match and fun to watch. And I haven't seen a non-wrestler celebrity come in and look as good in the ring as D'Angelo Williams did. So hats off to him, and especially if he did it with only 3 days of training. That just speaks to the tremendous athleticism he has.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was great. You had the Unified the Knockouts title. Sienna defeated Rosemary, and it was sort of a lackluster match. Nothing too great. And unfortunately, they had what's her name, Laurel Van Ness, get involved, which I think took away from the whole thing. And Gail Kim was in there because now she's back for another last run. Who knows? But but all in all, it was a show I didn't expect to really enjoy that much that I actually did. So hats off to TNA for putting together a nice show with Slammiversary. But then the big one, I think a lot of people who are talking about this throughout the country was the event that took place last weekend, Saturday and Sunday night in LA. It was the New Japan Pro Wrestling, the first time they'd ever had a fully produced international event here in the U.S. Everything was there, so they weren't piggybacking on a Ring of Honor show, and I think they made a lot of fans out of people who weren't familiar with the product before. They put on a great show across these 2 days. For my enjoyment, a little bit too much of the 6-man, 8-man tag stuff, but that's sort of the WrestleMania, Vince McMahon, hey, this is a big show for us. Let's showcase as many of our people as we can, get them all on the show kind of deal. But there were some really tremendous matches. Cody Rhodes versus Okada was really, really good. I really liked what they did in that. I'm a big fan of Okada, so I very much enjoyed that match. My boy Hanson, Todd Hanson, one half.
You meant like the 90s boy band.
No. One half of War Machine. They recaptured the IWGP Tag Team Championships, defeating the Guerrillas of Destiny in another good match. So congrats to Todd. Looking forward to hopefully getting to sit down with him for the sit down in coming months, if we can ever coordinate our schedules. But he had a great showing, a great night. Him and his partner Raymond Rowe did a good job capturing these IWGP Tag Championships for the second time. We also had the U.S. title tournament, which featured some really tremendous matches, culminating with the finals on the last night of the event, which will be on Access TV this coming Friday. If you want to check it out, if you have access to Access TV, no pun intended, it's definitely worth the look. It'll run the whole 3 hours. There was a Young Bucks match that was really good as well. But the final match, if you like if you like Japanese wrestling, if you like hard-nosed style, if you like MMA even, I think you'll really be into this because Kenny Omega went one-on-one with Ishii, and this match was just as physical as all hell. Great match. They went about a half hour. It's the second match of the night for both of them. Just beat the crap out of each other, and it's one you want to go check out. New Japan is making a lot of waves, getting a lot of headlines, making a lot of new fans in the United States these days. So we'll see what they end up doing. I think they need a more local presence to be really a competitor to the WWE.
Absolutely.
In fact, after this show, they said they'll be back for another show in April. To me, that's way too long to wait between shows.
People will lose interest, or you got a lot of time where storylines are going to change.
Right, exactly. But to me, one of the problems I had with the show, because there were production issues, and watching shows like this, sometimes you realize exactly how good the WWE production guys are at what they do. I think we take it for granted sometimes, but there were some production issues with this. But my biggest issue, and I say this, it pains me to say this because I was a huge fan, always have been a huge fan of Jim Ross, but listening to him call this on Access, I felt like he really couldn't have been more disinterested in what he was calling. He didn't seem to know. At one point, Jay Lethal hits his finisher called the lethal injection.
Mm-hmm.
Ross didn't even know what to call it, just a handspring into a cutter for the 1-2. Oh, he got him a 3. Just no energy to his call this time around. And I don't know if this is a thing because he's now signed back to the WWE. This was one of his last events for New Japan where he's just kind of a lame duck and didn't have it. I don't know if this is residual from losing his wife where he's not quite, himself lately, but this just didn't feel like a Jim Ross call. It was his voice, but it felt like it was somebody else doing it. There was just no energy or passion behind it, which I think just kind of took it away from it for me.
Yeah, maybe he, there might be too, maybe he wasn't expecting to, call this sort of thing, but they, maybe it was like a last minute sort of thing.
Oh, no,
I don't know.
He's been on schedule to do this for a long time.
Okay. I mean, sometimes there are a lot of other things that go into that, but yeah, that is kind of strange. And unfortunately, I love Jim Ross. Jim Ross is my favorite, one of my favorite all time wrestling personalities. And, maybe maybe calling matches is just kind of getting to be too much for him at this point.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but hopefully he rebounds and he'll be back with WWE soon. He's going to be calling the Mae Young Classic along with Lita, so hopefully,
that's cool.
Hopefully he'll bring that energy. That's going to pretty much kill it, I think, for our discussion topics for today.
Yeah,
Nina on the side, Kenny Omega versus Michael Elgin. Yes, that was another great one. And Jay Lethal all had good matches. Yeah, the whole show I thought was really good. There were some, like I said, there were some up and down points for me, but it was largely up, and I think New Japan made themselves a lot of new fans that night, and good on them for doing so. That's going to bring us, so for those of you who follow the rundown, you know that we have our weekly fantasy league. This week, for the first time, our fantasy league was won by Raccoon Reigns. He came out of the trash can last week and right into the winner's circle.
How does he have a cell phone?
I think he just uses Romans. I think that's all. That's what it is.
Okay, there you go.
He's in a shower or something.
He just goes to local libraries. He's like one of those people that's sitting down at the computer. You walk by and you don't you've been to a library. You don't really think twice about the people who are in there. So just a little raccoon, just type it away.
It is possible. His email address is still at geocities.com. So I don't know.
That's true.
But in any event, he did send along his topic that he would like us to discuss by virtue of winning. So we'll go ahead and do that. And his topic was, if you were booking WWE as of this moment, what would be your main event for WrestleMania 34? It's not limited to Raw or SmackDown. You can move guys from either show or have interbrand matches. So I have mine. And for me, the main event for WrestleMania, and then this actually a legitimate possibility that this is the way they're going to go. We'll kind of see how it plays out over the next few months. I want the main event of WrestleMania to be John Cena versus Roman Reigns for the championship. And I say that because that story at WrestleMania, you could tell, with Cena going for that record-breaking 17th championship, and Roman Reigns' sort of redemption at WrestleMania, where he had that title moment stolen from him by Seth Rollins a few years back. And the overriding story of what the fuck do the fans do in that match?
I was going to say, do you want a match where the fans just
absolutely, because I want to force those fuckers to make a choice, Andy. I want them to have to choose. I want them to have to cheer for someone they don't usually cheer for.
You run the risk, though. You run the risk if you make the fans choose with two people who are very polarizing. to then they won't care and they'll boo just the entire time. You run that risk booking that match.
With both of them, you get half the crowd chanting for them, half them chanting against them. The guy that's chanting against them will cheer for the other guy. It'll still be 50-50. I think the atmosphere would be off the charts for that match.
You don't think there's any overlap with like the people who hate Cena or those are the people who are going to like Roman? Like,
I don't know, but I'm willing to find out. I think it would be I think it would be a great story, and both of these guys are at the top of their game in terms of in-ring right now, and I just think it's the biggest match we haven't seen that we can be presented with at WrestleMania. I think we're also going to have Nakamura and AJ. I think that's going to be something they're going to do as well, but Cena and Roman's the main event for me.
That's interesting. I don't know. That's, I was kind of been looking at this question this entire time, and I'm kind of stuck on what I really want to see as a main event. I guess, I want to see maybe Finn Balor Nakamura, but did they do that in NXT? Was that a thing in NXT or no?
Yes. Well, they did have a match on NXT TV at one point.
I would like to see that maybe for like a SmackDown World Title, World Heavyweight Title, whatever. That would be really good. Maybe something with Seth, back as a heel. With someone he hasn't wrestled. I don't know. I guess those two would be those two guys. Could be a really cool main event if they did a lot to build it up.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting choice. If you have any suggestions, feel free to send them to the contact info we'll give you at the end of the show, and we can read them next week. So that's going to do it for that stuff. That's just going to bring us right to my favorite part because it's my segment. It's the news section on the Rundown Wrestling Podcast.
All right.
And leading off our news this week, Kairi Hojo, who is one of the top women's wrestlers in the world, announced Friday that she has signed with NXT and will compete in the Mae Young Classic. She will also be wrestling under her new WWE name, Kairi Sane. Sane broke the news in a video message that played on the big screen inside the Sumo Hall on last Friday's WWE Live event in Tokyo, Japan. Sane has wrestled for 5 years and was a multi-time champion in the Japanese women's wrestling promotion Stardom. Nicknamed the Pirate Princess in her home country of Japan, her pirate persona is inspired by her background in yachting. Before entering wrestling, Sane competed in the Yachting World Championship, which I didn't even know was a thing. And was considered an Olympic hopeful. Joining her are two other international wrestlers, Dakota Kai, a.k.a. Evie of New Zealand, and Piper Niven, a.k.a. Viper of Scotland, as well as NXT superstar Bianca Belair, who won a qualifying match to earn her berth in the Mae Young Classic. Today, the additions this week have brought the total number of confirmed Mae Young Classic entrants to 14. The other names we have confirmed are Tessa Blanchard, NXT superstar Sarah Logan, a.k.a. Crazy Mary Dobson, Toni Storm, NXT superstar Abby Lath, who was Kimber Lee on the Indies, NXT superstar Tainara Conti, Princessa Sughit. I don't know if that's any relation to Suge Knight, but I hope not. WWE NXT superstar Vanessa Bourne, Jazzy Gabbert, Kavita Devi, and Lacey Evans. Why can't they give these women regular names? I don't understand. Very complicated.
It's true.
The tournament, as I said earlier, will be called by Jim Ross and Lita and will debut on the WWE Network Monday, August 28th, which happens to be my wife's birthday. So sorry, honey, dinner plans are on hold.
Or it's on the network and you can go to dinner and watch it later. But if they do a pirate gimmick, if there's a person with a pirate gimmick, God, I hope it's a good pirate gimmick because we've seen our fair share of really shitty pirate gimmicks, and I love pirates. So I'm all for that. Mae Young Classic, I think it's going to be fun. I think that given how the other tournaments have gone, it could be very, very good.
I think it's been far too long since on WWE TV we had a pirate who wanted to bang his sister. It's been quite a while.
Oh, God, no. Bad memories.
We touched a little bit on this, but the main event for SummerSlam may have been changed, according to a report by Dave Meltzer in the latest issue of Wrestling Observer. As seen on Raw, the Roman Reigns challenged the winner of Samoa Joe versus Brock Lesnar, the match at Great Balls of Fire, to a match at SummerSlam. According to Meltzer, he has confirmed that the main event of SummerSlam has been recently changed to Reigns versus Lesnar. The original plan for SummerSlam was for Lesnar to defend the championship against Braun Strowman. Lesnar would retain the championship and then lose it to Reigns at WrestleMania. With Reigns versus Lesnar scheduled to SummerSlam, it would appear that the WrestleMania 34 event has changed as well, although they could do a Reigns versus Lesnar match at the show still.
Until WrestleMania without your world champion? Holy shit.
The
That
idea,
would be dumb as hell.
The idea could be to pull the trigger on a Reigns title win early so they have the Universal Champion as a regular on Raw television, which we kind of touched on earlier. Or it could be part of a story they want to tell where Reigns doesn't win now and builds it to a Mania win. But normally, WWE doesn't put the planned Mania match on a pay-per-view before Mania. Meltzer also speculated that with John Cena declaring himself a free agent, WWE could decide to go with Reigns versus Cena. I agree, as the main event of WrestleMania 34. The most logical conclusion is that Reigns would win over Lesnar. That a Reigns win over Lesnar would lead to a Reigns versus Cena WrestleMania main event, given that Cena has declared himself a free agent who can work on both shows and was introduced at the same time as Lesnar versus Strowman match was changed. If Lesnar loses the title, that nixes plans for Lesnar title defenses prior to next year's Mania with both Seth Rollins and Finn Balor, both of which had been teased as of a few weeks ago. Lesnar versus Strowman could be saved for Mania or for the Rumble, and while the SummerSlam main event has changed, plans can always change again. As noted, everyone realizes how strong Samoa Joe has gotten over in the Lesnar feud, and that's true, so we'll see if maybe Joe finds himself in that mix going forward. For WrestleMania, which of those matches I gave my logic for Cena and Roman, Lesnar versus Reigns, Lesnar versus Roman, Lesnar versus Strowman. Which one of those kind of wets your whistle the most, Andy?
Oh God, I don't know. Don't put Lesnar. Don't put Lesnar still his champion, not losing the belt. Okay, I can see maybe Lesnar comes back for one final title run after losing it at SummerSlam. I'm okay-ish with that. But honestly,
is that like day one-ish?
Yeah, kind of. But honestly, I'm not excited about any of those options. I'm just going to be straight up. I'm not that excited about any of those options. I want to see Finn Balor at WrestleMania fighting for the Universal title. That's what I want to see.
All right. See, I'm very excited about the possibility of Reigns versus Cena. I think that's a big money match. I think that's one of your next big guy versus your current big guy. It's sort of a passing of the torch, Rock Hogan kind of moment. I think you could have that.
But I don't know. Unless they turn Roman full on heel at some point, I don't want to see him
as
a
heel.
Big guy.
We have this discussion all the time. He is a heel. He's already a heel.
Yeah, he's a tweener, and I'm not a huge fan of tweeners.
God, they're all tweeners at this point. Well, Kevin Owens is a heel who gets more great lines and laughs and "you deserve it" chants than Kevin Owens does. Come on.
Fair.
Former Impact Wrestling star Gunner made his NXT debut at last Thursday's live event in St. Petersburg, Florida, where he lost to No Way Jose and was billed under his real name, Chad Lyle, from Charlotte, North Carolina. Gunner left Impact on June of 2015 and has recently started speculation on debuting with WWE as of May of this year. So, were you ever a fan of Gunner in TNA?
I didn't see a lot of Gunner. What I did see and hear about him, I wasn't too crazy about him.
So I think he's got a good look, decent worker. You know, if packaged right and given the right thing, I think he could be a guy they could use. I think he would fit in nicely with Sanity. That might be a spot for him, but
yeah,
who knows? We'll see what happens. Tyson Kidd has returned to work for WWE, but as a producer, and he will be returning to Total Divas for the next season, which I know you're excited about, Andy.
I'm so excited.
Kidd was backstage at this week's SmackDown, Raw and SmackDown. But PW Insider adds that he was also backstage for both shows, but did not produce any of the matches this week, as he was there observing and watching the other producers to get a feel for the job, which would do a lot to indicate that Tyson Kidd's in-ring career is over. And if so, that's a bummer, because he was sort of, I think, just hitting his stride after he came up from NXT again, had that sort of rebirth down in NXT. He was teaming with Cesaro. They were having a great little run. And then just a errant muscle buster, and then all of a sudden his career is over, and that's a really tough break for him.
It's a shame. It's good that he's still going to have a job. I think that I don't know enough of him and his mental capacity. Like how sharp he is to be someone working in the back, but it's good for him. Why do you still have a show called Total Divas when you're trying to not call them divas anymore? I don't know. There's a lot of unanswered questions here. We'll see how it kind of goes going forward.
The aftermath of a chaotic scene on Raw involving LeVar Ball and sons Lonzo and LaMelo Ended with the WWE issuing a statement late Monday night regarding a racial slur used by 15-year-old LaMelo. When LeVar jumped around the ring and eventually taking his shirt off to confront The Miz, LaMelo used the slur twice on live microphone at the Staples Center in Los Angeles, California. He was laughing throughout the segment, but the slur received attention on social media. Quote, the inappropriate language used by a guest during the Miz TV segment was not scripted nor reflects the WWE's values, end quote, the WWE said in a statement to the Los Angeles Times. According to Dave Meltzer and the Wrestling Observer, WWE officials backstage were immediately furious with the slur and wanted to rush out of the segment, Kevin Dunn in particular. The screw-ups regarding how the segment was scripted apparently started when LaMelo was supposed to get into the Miz's face when LeVar told him to handle his light work. When that happened, Miz, thinking on his feet, went back to talking to LeVar. Dunn was already in a panic, so he ordered Dean Ambrose out about a minute earlier than originally planned, as LeVar was running around with his shirt off. As Ambrose came out, LaMelo said the words into a live mic, and WWE immediately cut his mic. Backstage in the production truck, people were freaking out, and the PR department was expecting a shitstorm, which didn't really happen.
Yeah.
WWE's original plan for the Ball family was to be at ringside during the six-man tag match and perhaps get involved in some form, but they were quickly taken to the back. Officials expected LeVar to have a smoother promo and for Lonzo to get a much better crowd reaction than he did. Meltzer was told that the segment was much better when they did the practice run earlier in the day. Well, it would be hard for it to be much worse. The Los Angeles Lakers had also made it clear that Lonzo could not touch anyone or do anything physical. So you weren't on last week, so what were your thoughts on that segment?
You know, I'm not a sports ball person. However, I know these people because you can't. It's hard not to know these people. They're everywhere, and you know the thought of them being on there at first, I was like, okay, why do we need to do this? I get why WWE does it. WWE does this all the time. Something's really big. They're in the hometown. You know, there's that connection or whatever with them, but. No, it was bad. It was terrible. It went off the rails quickly. It should have been a lot shorter. You know, I watched the Hulu version, so I didn't see the slur until later when I saw a news article. I'm like, wait, there was a slur? I don't remember that. I feel like I would have remembered that. And I went back and watched the clip and I just love Dean Ambrose's like facial expressions. It was terrible. It was god awful. So bad.
This is probably my favorite story of the week, but on Saturday, a fan tagged the Hardy family on Twitter to suggest that Matt and Jeff's children could become Team Extreme 2.0. It included a prior photo of the original Team Extreme with the Hardy Boys and Lita. This upset Matt Hardy's wife, Rebby, who tweeted, quote, "Don't tag my kids in pictures with this hoe," end quote. A fan then tweeted at Rebby, "I'd love to see you say shit like that to Amy Dumas. You are real brave behind a keyboard."
Oh, no.
Rebby, who has never been shy about sharing her opinions on social media, then responded with, "Do I give off the vibe that I'm timid? Is that what you are interpreting here?" Lita has not commented on the matter.
You know, Lita would be smart to stay out of that.
I think everybody would be smart to stay out of interactions with Rebby.
I think that's probably true. I think that she needs to not ever be brought into the WWE alongside Matt in any way. Ugh.
We got a run of some sad news over the next few stories, but Smith Hart, the oldest brother of Bret Hart, passed away this week. Tyson Kidd broke the news in his post on Facebook. Hart, who is 68 years old, had been battling stage 4 prostate cancer and was recently moved into hospice care. So we certainly want to send along our best to the Hart family and all of Smith Hart's family and friends over that loss. Certainly a tragic thing, and then another blow to a wrestling family, wrestling royal family, if you will, in the Harts.
Yeah, there's not much left of that particular royal family of the founding members. That's sad. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, absolutely. TV personality and WWE fan Maria Menounos revealed that she recently underwent a risky surgery to remove a brain tumor and will step down as co-anchor of E! News. In a People magazine cover story, the 39-year-old Menounos said she was diagnosed after reporting dizziness, headaches, and slurred speech to a doctor. She had a golf ball-sized melanoma brain tumor that was pushing on her fascial nerves. I didn't cry. I actually laughed, she told People. It was so surreal and crazy and unbelievable that my mom had a brain tumor and now I have one too. Menounos, she She had the 7-hour surgery, which is a long surgery,
Jesus Christ.
with famed neurosurgeon Dr. Keith Black on June 8th, and 99% of the benign tumor was removed. He said, "I'm 98% sure it's benign, but we won't know until we get in there," Menounos told People. "I don't have my balance fully yet. My face is still numb. This is something that takes at least a month of healing, but I'm getting stronger and stronger every day, and I'll be back to normal very soon," she said. Menounos also told People that she considers the experience a blessing that brought her family closer. "I tell people all the time that if your car is making a weird noise, you take it to the mechanic. How come when your body is making weird noises, we ignore it? I'm so lucky that I went to the doctor and raised the alarm," she said. Menounos said in a statement that she is grateful for the past 3 years at E and will truly miss everyone, but is looking forward to the next chapter of her life. Menounos has been active with the WWE in a variety of capacities, including in the ring since 2009. The popular personality even had a WrestleMania moment back in 2012, teaming with Kelly Kelly to defeat Beth Phoenix and Eve Torres, and she may or may not have shit her pants in that match. More recently, she's been a regular presence at the annual WWE Hall of Fame induction ceremony. She inducted her friend Bob Backlund in 2013 and hosted the red carpet special for the past 4 years. She also has appeared as a guest backstage interviewer at WrestleMania the last 3 years. So certainly glad to hear that they apparently got the tumor taken care of, and certainly wish a speedy and full recovery for Maria Menounos.
Yeah,
I always thought she did a great job.
I agree.
Here's one we may not feel quite so bad for, but let's give it a shot.
I know you're bringing me down, man.
Let's give it a shot and see what you think. Former WWE star Sunny has been hospitalized twice since last week. The Hall of Famer was admitted to a hospital in New York early last week and again on Saturday.
Did you get like a billiard ball stuck up there or something? Or
last Monday, she posted photos of a bruise from a hospital and wrote, quote, "Okay, need to get out of this hospital. They will only release me if someone comes to get me. Who is near Stony Brook who can come sign me out and, quote, get me out of here now?"
Was that on just like Twitter? Did she like just throw it on Twitter, on social media?
Yep.
That's freaky and scary. You're going to get some like obsessed fan showing up like, "Yeah, I'm here to help her out." What?
Yeah. Usually they don't like prevent you from leaving unless it's like a chemical or they have reason to believe you might injure yourself. I don't know what the reasoning was. But on Saturday morning, she revealed that she was in the emergency room because she, quote, "passed out and fell." I'm thinking she might have had some help in passing out and falling.
Probably true.
In an update on the situation, she is currently hospitalized at Southside Hospital in Bayshore, New York. She sent an update on Monday afternoon thanking people for their concern, saying, quote, "I appreciate everyone's concern for me. I'm still in the hospital. Please, everyone who has my number and keeps calling or texting, please ease up. My phone is blowing up, and I don't have the energy to respond yet. I will when I can. My phone is driving my nurses crazy. Thank you." Perhaps don't go on social media then and prompt everybody to know you're in hospital.
Absolutely.
Being held captive. Prior to being hospitalized, Sitch had said on Twitter that she was having a horrible fucking day and asked someone please make it better. She also wrote on Facebook the night before, "Why is it that when I meet a normal guy and we're getting along great, he disappears all of a sudden with no warning? He must find out what I do for a living, and that's so judgmental and sucky. Fuck you then, I don't need you."
She's something else.
She followed that up with saying, quote, "So just now on my way to the gym, I stopped for a sandwich because I'm starving. Always good to eat right before you work out. Some guy who recognized me took it upon himself to sit down at my table, start talking to me, and long story short, offered me money for sex." She then puts in capital letters, "When will you assholes realize I'm not a fucking escort or a hooker? Fuck you all." I don't know if she's been released from the hospital, but she also put on Twitter today, "I've decided to release that special booty video I filmed for my friends just on her OnlyFans site, which is a subscription service where you pay $30 a month to let her know you're a fan of hers."
Wow, that's great.
How much would you pay for a Sunny booty video at this day and age, Annie?
I'm not even going to answer that one.
I don't even know what's entailed in this booty video. I don't know if there's stuff going in there. I don't know if it's stuff coming out. I have no idea.
Billiard balls. I'm telling you, billiard balls.
Who's billiard?
Speaking of balls, are we Great Balls of Fire? I think we're about there, right?
Almost. We got
All right, couple more, and then
story.
we'll head to
One
them
more
balls.
story, and then we're done.
All right.
In a bit of news that probably won't make the WWE too happy, Paige apparently sat in the front row at Impact Wrestling's Slammiversary pay-per-view in Orlando, Florida.
Was she caught on camera?
Hold on, I'll get there.
Okay.
During the main event between Alberto El Patron and Lashley, a female wearing a Dos Caras lucha mask. El Patron's father is a legendary luchador named Dos Caras, took a seat in the front row. Fans who snapped shots of the woman at ringside believe her to have been Paige. A shot of her camera confirms that the masked woman was Paige, since the WWE star's real name, Saraya Beavis, is on the phone. Way to stay incognito. Paige was confirmed as being backstage at Slammiversary a few hours before the show. PWI Insider reported that she was at the show with El Patron, which wouldn't be the first time she was backstage at an Impact event with him.
When are they just going to wash their hands of her and be done?
Well, they've still got that movie about her family coming out, and I think that's probably a big part of why they haven't done that.
You know, when I first heard about this movie, that came out of nowhere. Like, why did they think that this was going to be a big thing? And why do they still think, like, wouldn't it be better at this point to just not release that film, just to scrap that project and move on?
That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money you're
so?
just throwing away. Yeah, no, I don't see them doing that.
It's not gonna get them much money. Like, no offense at this point, she's been off TV for so long, and I don't think she's, aside from the sex tape situation, I don't think she's that relevant anymore. I don't know if they're going to get their return on investment here.
Well, you got to keep in mind that's also being pushed by The Rock. So that's a fairly large,
good guess,
large thing to pass on in terms of promotion.
The Rock is also in a Jumanji movie coming up. So, like, not everything he touches is gold.
Well, you know, there's a lot of stuff he's touched that's been shit that's made a lot of money. So now here's an interesting thing, because I was having this is a little bit off topic. I'm going to go off the run sheet here for a second, because I actually had this random conversation with a person today, and I figured since I got you here, it'd be interesting to have this conversation with you.
All right.
How familiar are you with the sort of paparazzi aspect of celebrity in terms of like your TMZ stuff and how they?
Yeah, I know of it. I know.
Okay.
I see things about TMZ all the time.
Now, of all the big, best looking celebrities in the world, have you ever seen The Rock filmed with a woman anywhere? In all the pictures, I know he takes his mom to the award show.
Right.
There's never rumors about who he's dating.
Well, he's not married?
No, he was. He got divorced a long time ago.
Oh, okay. I assumed he was married.
No,
okay.
His ex-wife is still his manager, but they're divorced.
Okay. Interesting.
So, but you never ever hear of him with any women. He's never...
Unless he's keeping it super low key, because he doesn't.
None of the women ever come forward and say, "Hey, I was with The Rock." Either usually that would be almost a badge of honor.
Yeah, you would think.
George.
Are you barking up a tree? I think you're barking up here.
I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm just stating some facts.
Hey,
conclusions you want from it.
I'm sure my husband would be okay if we wanted to test the theory and get that information out to the public. I would be okay to try that. But
are you saying The Rock is on your list, Andy?
Well, I mean, he isn't really necessarily on my list, but he is. But he might be now. I mean, he's a very good looking man, and I guess I never really thought of it before.
Yeah,
it's interesting.
When you think about it, every other like I said, George Clooney's a very private guy, but you always see who he's banging or hear the stories.
That's true. That's true.
You just never hear anything about a romantic relationship for The Rock. It's a little strange.
Maybe he's just doing too many movies. He doesn't have time for it. Maybe he's asexual. I don't know. But that's, I don't know. Interesting.
It is a little weird though. Think about it though, right?
Yeah. TMZ needs to get a hold of that. Figure that out. Right.
All that came off a discussion I had at work, so you're welcome for that. All right, so now the main event, the thing.
Speaking of balls,
tuned into the rundown to listen to as Andy and I attempt to tell you exactly what is going to happen at #WWE Balls this coming Sunday.
It's my favorite part of the episodes usually, but it always seems like we get to this point. It's like 2 hours in, and we're like, yeah, they're gonna win. Yeah, they're gonna win. But I feel like we still got the energy going at this point. So
we'll give some analysis. I think
there we go.
Let's do it. Let's start with the match I'm pretty sure you don't give a fuck about, but the Cruiserweight Championship going to be on the line as the latest.
I don't know the build-up, so
the latest member of the Titus brand, Akira Tozawa, will challenge the king of the Cruiserweights, Neville, for the Cruiserweight Championship. Andy, who do you like in that one?
Neville, because again, maybe I just don't know enough about the buildup. Maybe the buildup's been there and I don't know, but Neville is still amazing, and Neville still needs to hold the belt until they get someone, maybe someone big from maybe NXT or some indie guy to come in to really give him kind of a buzz for a competitor. I'm not saying anything bad about Akira Tozawa, but to me, he's just that guy who was on the Cruiserweight Classic that I don't really know what he's done since then.
Yeah, and he's had a nice little run as a face down in the 205 in the cruiserweight division. But I do, like I said, I think Neville is a transcendent champion. I think he carries across. He's got credibility. He's real. His heel turn's been tremendous. He's been great in this heel role, and he is the face of that 205. And I don't know that Akira Tozawa has it to be the face of that division. So yeah, I'm gonna go with you on that one. I think Neville holds on to the title there, and he should have. Even if he doesn't, he absolutely should.
Agreed.
That'll lead us to our second match, which is for the Raw Tag Team Championships, as 007, Cesaro and Sheamus defend those titles against Matt and Jeff, the Hardy Boys, and added this week the kicker that it is going to be a 30-minute Iron Men match.
Rock on.
Yeah, there's a joke to be made here, Andy, about asking your opinion on the Iron Man match, but let's just go with your choice for who you think is going to win the match.
This is going to be a great match. I think this has the capability of being match of the night. I think that maybe they put this on first to really, when you got a long match like this, it'd be a great start to the actual show proper. I think it's going to stay with Cesaro and Sheamus just because I think they're going to run with the titles a little bit longer. And I don't know who's going to be the ones to take it off them, but I don't think it's going to be the Hardys. I think the Hardys were brought back to be that surprise at WrestleMania to carry the titles and really kind of add some legitimacy for a while. But they're going to go off and do something else after this, whether that's together or not. And I think definitely Cesaro and Sheamus are going to win this one.
All right. So my take on this is based largely on the rest of the roster. And what I mean by that is I can look and ask myself legitimately, if Sheamus and Cesaro win this match, who do they move on to? And recently, the obvious choice would be Enzo and Cass because they were long overdue for a title run.
Right.
But it doesn't look like that's obviously going to happen now. So I can't think of another Raw face tag team that's.
Oh yeah, I guess you'd be right. They'd have to be faces, wouldn't they?
So to me, what you're looking at that point is put the titles back on the Hardys, and then let's get a Hardys and Revival program going.
Okay, I'd be behind that.
I think there could be money in that. So to me, I'm gonna say they're gonna go with putting the titles back on the Hardys.
Okay. I'm gonna stick with my choice because I don't know for reasons, but you make a very compelling point there.
Our next title match is going to be for the Intercontinental title in the feud that will never end, as The Miz once again defends this title against Dean Ambrose. And we talked about it before. If you go back and exclude the small respite around WrestleMania because Cena wanted to propose to his girlfriend, these guys have been feuding pretty much exclusively for about a year now.
They have been. And it'll probably be a decent match because I think both of them can work. And I really love The Miz. I love The Miz a lot. I think he's probably the greatest heel they've got right now. Maybe Owens is a little bit better in some of his work.
Pure heels, absolutely.
Yeah. As a pure heel, absolutely. I'm going to give it to The Miz, and maybe there's got to be someone that they can put against The Miz here and really kind of push him for the next few months.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of The Miz, but I really hope this is the last time we see these guys.
Yeah, hopefully this is the end of these two.
Yeah, I really hope so. And for my money, I've been a huge fan of The Miz. I think since Maurice came back, his character's just grown in leaps and bounds.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm really enjoying the addition of the Miztourage with Axel and Bo Dallas. I think it adds something to Miz. I think it's great for those two guys to have sort of some definition to their characters and a purpose on the show. Yep. I hope they stick with that. And in order to stick with that, I think Miz has to win. So I'm going to stick with my choice of Miz successfully retaining the Intercontinental title at #WWE Balls. And if you're looking for some poetry to go with your WWE balls,
Jesus Christ,
I suggest that you go to tinyurl/Distant Horizons.
It's true.
Just
get your poetry fix. Why not?
Yes, absolutely.
Get in there. It's like 5 years old at this point, but get your fix. It's worth it.
Hey, nothing wrong with a little butt poetry every now and then.
Hey, butt poetry is the best poetry.
There you go. Also, our next match, we talked about this one sort of in depth, but let's go into a prediction here. Enzo Amore going to face Big Cass in a battle of the former tag team partners. I sort of already gave my take on this one. I think Cass is going to win. I think Cass is going to win decisively. I sort of laid out how I would book it with Cass just beating on Enzo until he gets disqualified. But Andy, how do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, I don't know. Either he's going to beat him up until he gets disqualified, or we're going to get this sort of thing where it's just going to be like he's not going to stay down. He's not going to stay down. And then Cass is finally going to get the best of him. So I think Big Cass wins. It'll be a clean win rather than a disqualification, but I think that would be just as legitimate of an end as well.
Interesting. We have the women's championship is going to be defended as Alexa Bliss will defend that belt against Sasha Banks. I'm on record as saying I think I would have held off on this till SummerSlam. I think
absolutely
SummerSlam program. I'm not quite sure why we're doing this here. I think we could have gotten another month out of Bayley. We could have done something else. We could have.
Well, I don't know if I agree with that, but
we could have put some finality to kind of the Nia Jax thing they were working on with Alexa. There were ways to avoid getting to this until SummerSlam, but in any event, they're going to do it here. And the only reason I would justify this is if Sasha wins the title and we get Sasha versus Bayley at SummerSlam because it's in that same building as their epic encounter at NXT in Brooklyn. I think that would be a nice little bit of storytelling. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think Alexa retains the title here, probably by nefarious means, but I don't see Sasha leaving Great Balls with the championship.
Agreed. I think Alexa Bliss will still hold the title. However, I think we may see like you said, something nefarious, which means that Sasha Banks will pick up the victory, but won't win the title, and that'll push toward the actual rematch at SummerSlam.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense too. Now, Andy, your expertise area here: Bray Wyatt versus Seth Rollins in a battle of who the fuck cares. But let's find out if Andy cares.
I wish I could care more about this because I like these guys so much. I don't honestly know what they're going to do because the story has not been told well enough that I don't know what the stakes are for winning and losing at this point for these two. So just because I have no idea, I'm going to go with Seth Rollins.
Oh, that's a good pick, I guess. You know, it seems like every one of these events I sit there and go, well, this has to be one where Bray needs to win. This has to be the one where he wins. Given all his public legal issues with his wife, maybe this is where they punish him. So I'm probably going to say Seth Rollins wins this match.
There you go.
Maybe Bray Wyatt wins and he and JoJo have a live sex celebration. Who knows? We'll find out.
I do not want to see that.
Now, you weren't on the show when we discussed the issues with Bray Wyatt and JoJo. My take on that was if you were to give me the entire WWE roster and say two of these people are fucking, that would probably be the last couple I would pick.
It would be one of the last couples for sure on my list as well. It's confusing, but you know, love happens in the strangest of places. So there you go.
I suppose. Of course, JoJo, the daughter of former Red Sox second baseman Jose Offerman. So there's that.
Maybe JoJo can be Sister Abigail.
No, that would be Sister Abigail.
You went there, not me. I want to make that clear.
I've gone there before on the show. That's fine.
I was going to say, this show's been very, very clean cut. Nothing controversial for once. I think the lack of Troy and Adam has made that. The
lack of Troy is definitely part of that.
And Adam to not be racist against Asians. So
this is true too. Yeah. That's allegedly. Roman Reigns versus Braun Strowman in an ambulance match. This was, of course, the match we were supposed to have at Extreme Rules. Braun's injury kind of postponed it, but they were not shy about bringing it back for this month at hashtag WWE Balls. So the question becomes, whose balls are bigger, Roman or Strowman?
It's a tough call. Everything's pointing to probably Roman Reigns. It'll be an interesting match. I like it. I like the build up. I'm going to enjoy it. I guess I'll just go with Roman.
Yeah, the last two matches have been very physical, very entertaining. I've enjoyed this program quite a bit. Mm-hmm. Like I said, if you believe the rumors and it's Roman and Lesnar at SummerSlam, I almost feel like Roman has to win this.
Yeah.
But sort of in the way I laid out earlier, where he wins it and then Roman and Strowman kind of plows his way out of the ambulance before it ever takes off. So he still looks good coming out of it.
Right, absolutely.
But That's kind of what I see happening. And then, of course, the match we've been talking about ad nauseum throughout the course of this show, WWE Universal Championship, Brock Lesnar, along with Paul Heyman, defending the title against Samoa Joe. Andy, how do you see this one going down?
My head says Brock Lesnar. My heart is saying Samoa Joe. Like, what I want to see happen is I want to see the shock. I want to see Samoa Joe win. However, I know that it's not going to happen, and it'll be Brock Lesnar. But it'll be a physical as hell match.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see this. Now, my only caveat of protecting my poor little heart from being disappointed is that I remember how excited I was for the prospect of the street fight between Lesnar and Ambrose at WrestleMania that turned into an absolute squash and a shit show of a match. Right. So I'm hoping that's not what they do here. I really don't want to see them squash Joe. I'm really hoping this is a competitive back and forth match. Mm-hmm. I don't see Joe winning as much as I'd like him to. I have a feeling Lesnar is going to carry this title at least until SummerSlam. Although he shouldn't, he will. And he's going to win this here, but I really hope it's a competitive, brutal slugfest with both guys taking a hell of a beating and Joe looking good in defeat.
I would agree.
All right. Well, with that, I think we're just about done, Andy, unless you've got anything else you want to discuss.
I think we've covered a lot this week. So I think I'm looking forward to a really interesting pay-per-view with a really awful name, and it should hopefully be a good time.
All right. Well, in that case, we're going to remind you we've got some stuff to plug. And Troy did not provide us with the latest info for Brew City Wrestling, so stay tuned next week. I'm sure he'll get that to us.
He's a little busy with a baby. By the way, congratulations, Troy.
Oh, I was going to get to that at the end, Andy, but thanks for
okay, sorry. I didn't realize. I didn't have your notes here listed. It just says plugs. I'm sorry, but I guess I'll say it now, and that'll make me look like the better man. Congratulations, Troy. That's awesome. That's fantastic.
Yeah, Troy's wife had their second daughter, this past, was a couple days ago, actually.
Yeah.
Just want to send off our congratulations to Troy. That's why he's been on hiatus and will be for a little bit of time while the new family gets used to their adjustment. Baby and mommy are doing fine, so we all want to pass along our congratulations to the Bozen family in its entirety for their newest member.
Yep.
So that's why Troy hasn't got his Brew City Wrestling information. But
that's why Troy didn't just randomly pop in the middle of this episode either.
If you are interested in Brew City Wrestling, I suggest you go back and check out the rundown sit-down I did with the fabled one, Aesop Mitchell, where we discuss in great detail professional wrestling in the Midwest, and particularly in Brew City Wrestling. That's a great listen, so go check that out. If you want to see a show where Adam and I will both be together, you can check out the El Mundo Fan Fest Sunday, July 23rd. From the historic Fenway Park. Only the second wrestling show in 60 years to take place inside the walls of Fenway Park. It'll be my second year participating. It's a great time. It's a great day. You come out, whole family. There's live wrestling all through the day. There's also a bunch of exhibits, great stuff to do. Plus, like I said, you get to be at Fenway, and you get to see Adam and I. So there's that too.
There you go.
We will also both be at Atlantic Pro Wrestling when we return Sunday, July 30th at Old Yankee Homecoming in Newbury. I believe it's at the Bartlett Mall. It's a free show, so come check out all the great action for the price of free. You can't get much better than that.
That is true.
You can check out Lucky Pro Wrestling Summer Sizzle Saturday, August 5th at the Elks Hall in Clinton, Massachusetts. And I'm not going to do the Clinton voice that Adam typically does. I know that the LPW heavyweight champion, the selfie-made man, Vern Vicalo, is going to take on the Punjabi Lion for the championship there. Also, I think there's a women's title match between Davienne and Deanna Purrazzo, who's been on NXT a few times, quite a accomplished female wrestler in the Northeast. There's women's tag team action. There's singles competition. I believe Bo Douglas is going to challenge Brick Mastone for the LPW Hard Knocks Championship. So great night of action. Go check that out. Liberty States will return in September. They're on hiatus, so we'll get more information on that as we get a little bit closer. I will be taking part in the UFO's Big Bang August 23rd. It's a Wednesday night in Malden, Massachusetts at the Malden Irish American. Some matches announced for that so far. We are going to have the Kingpin Brian Malonis defending the championship against an independent star, Dirty Daddy Chris Dickinson, going to be in the house. Also, we are going to have the UFO Tag Team Championships on the line as the team of Bo Douglas and Josh Briggs defend the titles against the Cool People. There was quite a interaction last time. The Cool People attacked them, hit them with the belt, got disqualified. This is the rematch, so we'll see how it plays out. And also, I believe we have a singles match signed, which I don't know if it's officially been announced yet, so I don't know if I want to go and put it out there, but I'll just say this: it does feature independent star Teddy Goods, so we'll hopefully have more info on that next week when I can verify that it is out there and official. But that's going to be, once again, the UFO Big Bang on August 23rd in Malden, Massachusetts. You can Elkamania is going to return as well in September, so keep you posted on that. You can get the show at Rundown Podcast on Twitter or rundownwrestling@gmail.com for all your feedback.
And real quick, I wanted to throw in, since you're talking about wrestling and we had a million of them, might as well throw in SCW, which comes from, obviously, maybe you would know it from Seth Rollins, a little small known wrestler getting his start there. SCW Red, White, and Bruised will be their next show on July 15th at the Walcott Coliseum in Walcott, Iowa. So if you are in the Midwest, in Iowa, Illinois, definitely go check that out.
Absolutely. We want to promote all the wrestling around the country that we can. If you'd like to leave a voicemail for our show, feel free to do so at 617-863-6967. That is 61 Rundown 7. You can check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Rundown Wrestling. Also see archived photos of archived episodes of our video shows at youtube.com/Rundown Podcast. You can go to paypal.me/Rundown Wrestling to make a donation. Adam would like me to remind you that $10 pays for hosting for an entire month. He still has on here. You can go to get your copy of Chasing Distant Horizons at tinyurl.com/Distant Horizons.
Yeah, help a teacher who's on break right now. That'd be great.
According to Troy, it is poetry for your asshole.
That's Troy. Hey, he also, to be fair, he also sent me a text today and said, "Hey, I lost my copy of Distant Horizons. Can you send me a new one?" And I'm like, "Oh, great. You actually want to read it." Or he's run out of toilet paper. One of the two. I'm going to send him a digital copy. So I don't know why he'd want to print copies and go through all of that, but whatever he wants to do.
I'm still a big fan of the notion of Troy doing the audio book for Chasing Distant Horizons. I think that's something you guys need to work on.
If he wants to do that and not make a complete mockery of it, I'm all for it.
Oh, it's so much more fun if he makes a mockery of it. You can check out all of our sister podcasts on the Questionable Endeavor Network, including Shadowvane at shadowvane.net, Tuning Japanese on iTunes and Stitcher, the Raw Attitude Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud, the Slasher Sanitarium on iTunes and Stitcher. New episodes coming to their Slasher Sanitarium as soon as Troy gets back from his hiatus. Pwn Stars on iTunes and Podomatic, the New Blood Rising on iTunes, and Words of Geekdom on iTunes and Stitcher. Want to also throw a quick shout out to the other shows available on the Rundown feed, including Troy's NXT Revisited series, again, also on hiatus, hopefully to be returning soon. When Troy does return, he'll also be launching his new podcast, Glow Shtick, where he will go through the 10-episode run of the new Netflix series Glow, detail by detail for every episode, so that'll be great to listen to. Adam has recently launched his own series called Nitromania, where he goes through, as a person who has never followed Nitro, goes through the episodes starting from the beginning of Monday Night Nitro. Always a interesting listen to Adam's take as he watches Nitros for the first time. And of course, my show on the Rundown Wrestling feed, the Rundown Sit Down. This week we released one I was very excited, very proud of, as New England wrestling legend Demon Ortiz, who recently had to retire, sat down with me. We went over his career, his favorite matches, including one against a certain former WWE Universal Champion, which you can hear about on the interview, as well as his injury that forced him to retire and the chances that we may ever see him in the ring again. So you definitely want to check that out. The Rundown Sit Down. More episodes coming soon as I book more guests. And if you have anybody you'd like to hear on the sit down, you've got the contact info there. You can contact them, or you can tweet me directly on Twitter at JStuart. That's JSTUART 0920. For any information on a Quest End related item, you can go to Twitter at Quest End Network or the website, the newly redesigned website, I understand.
We fixed it up a little bit.
QuestEndNetwork.com. Also, you can check out the Discord channel. We also want to encourage you to listen to our friends, the Kingpin, Brian Malonis, and Mike Crockett on the wrestling podcast About Nothing. You can check them out on Facebook. That's 2 shows a week. Always an entertaining listen. Those guys have been very good to us, and we like to be good to them as well. Of course, the Kingpin, also a guest on the Rundown Sit Down, so you definitely want to go check that one out too. You can search for us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Podbean, or the Podomatic under the Rundown Wrestling Podcast. I probably should have said that one earlier, but that's the way Adam wrote it in the notes. So I
blame
think,
Adam.
So I think unless you have anything else, Andy.
No, thank you so much for, it's nice to be back on here. I like to be on here every once in a while. I've got a lot on my plate with podcasts, between Shadow Vein and Tuning Japanese, and working through the website and all that. So whenever I can get on here, it's great. If you are brand new to the show and you're not sure who I am, I do have a past with this show, and if you're interested in the other shows, definitely go check out Shadow Vein if you like radio dramas. If you are a fan of anime, which it's weird, there is a little bit of a crossover between anime and wrestling, honestly, at fandoms. Go check out Tuning Japanese. We are wrapping up our review of Trigun, and confirmed, and I can't spill the beans on exactly, we'll have a very special guest to end our review of Trigun. So looking forward to that.
Confirmed a special guest that you can't confirm.
We've confirmed that it's going to happen, but I'm not going to say who it is yet, because last time we did that, when Jessica Calvello came on, there were issues getting that put out when we wanted it to get put out. So I don't want to get any fans' hopes up right away with a name and then immediately dash their dreams and lose listeners. So,
all right. Well, I think that's going to do it for episode 301 of The Rundown. I want to thank everyone for listening. I want to thank everyone on the side, Nina Marie and Matt Riley, both for participating in the show. I want to thank you, Andy.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely.
Always good to have a Jandy episode every now and then.
It's true. Got to change things up.
Only the second time ever, but I feel like we've represented pretty well here.
I think we did a good job tonight. I'm pretty happy with it.
So, I'm not going to say Adam's catchphrases because a lot of them are stupid. I'm also not going to tell you to go to Google Plus because that's not really a thing, and fuck him for continuously putting that on there. I'm not going to say anything about WWE shitty horror films from like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I will say
we will say thank you.
Yes.
To our wonderful artist Ray Williams. He's a great guy from what I know, for the artwork. Really appreciate that. And
thank you to I Fight Dragons for the theme song.
Absolutely.
And thank you to Ray for his version of the Rundown. Also, Troy tweaked it a little bit for the sit down logo too, so it worked out really great. I appreciate that. And I think that's just about going to do it. So I want to remind you guys, fashion police yourself, and we'll see you next Thursday.
Oh, later. All right. I'm going to have to do some tweaking to stupid vehicles. Cut myself out where the vehicles are like, Rawr. My microphone is way too sensitive.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the post show. This is going to do it for the post show. We don't have any Google Chat transcripts or anything.
Yeah, we really don't. I'm probably just going to kind of cut it here in a minute.
So that way I shut the show down. So thank you all for joining us.
Thanks, guys. Thank you guys on the side for your chats. Really appreciate those little bits of additions there.
Yeah, Nina Marie saved my ass there with the Eli Drake thing. So.
Yeah, on the ball. Ball.
Helped me out quite a bit, so I appreciate
301. All right. Well, I'm gonna send us off on YouTube, so I'm gonna stop that broadcast. Have a good one, YouTubers.